Hello, good evening, podcast listeners. It's Do You Expect to Talk commentary time, and I am your host, who's just dashed from a cinema after the gym, doing a half a press up.
Freudian slip there.
Yeah,
he's been watching some fucking film, and he's gone. Yeah, I just come back from the gym.
Well, usually it's the cinema we come back from, but no, today it was the gym, and
just came back from the lab.
Yeah,
he said he cut his workout short. So I'm just honestly, I think he just saw the podcast signal out the window.
Yeah, I refer to it as like kind of like as if it's like the bat signal, just like shit to the podcast cave.
I'll have like one really buff arm, and then be working on the other arm next week.
Yes, that's exactly what I'll do. Yeah. So today is Becca's choice. We're covering GoldenEye.
Starring Peace Benson.
It was so funny because
we're a bit
our podcast is a little bit cursed. And
we're killing people. Last before we'd even published the show after it, the show in which we mentioned Alex Ferguson, he had a fucking brain hemorrhage.
But he's okay today. He sat up and he's asking about his results, so he survived. So yeah, and they made a list of these hilarious like alternate names. So instead of Pierce Brosnan, it's Peace Benson. And instead of Michael Kitchen, he plays Tanner. It was, what was it?
Martin
Bathroom or something. John Bathroom.
Yes.
Instead of Judi Dench, it's Judy Stench or something like that. Instead of Sean Bean, it was Short Bean.
Short Bean, yeah. Not the
or Sean.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sean Bean, I think this is the only time in a film where he's died twice. I think.
He only died twice.
In the same film. So, yeah, does this count as like two tallies then for this film? I don't know. But, yes, we're doing GoldenEye, our favourite. Is your favourite, Pierce? Becca?
Who are you asking?
Yes.
Okay, so I know it's your favourite, Pierce, Dave, but...
It's not my favourite. It's the best Pierce, but that's
for Dave for putting him through this, but we still got much pussy to do. So
hang on a minute, I ranked it about 10th or something. I hardly hate it.
Yeah, wait till we get to Octopussy. That'll be the real test of.
That will be the test. Actually, that might be quite a funny episode if I stay awake. My main problem with Octopussy is I get bored. There's so many films I can take the piss out of much more effectively than a film I just struggle to even concentrate on.
Yeah,
but we'll get there.
Yeah, again, when it's talking bollocks, you'll just end up like talking random shit.
I'm quite happy to commentate on any of them, to be honest with you. So no, I'm quite happy to watch GoldenEye. It's the most classically sort of Bond-looking film he did. Pity about the fucking score.
Well, yeah, that's one thing we'll miss out though, isn't it?
Plot doesn't make an awful lot of sense, and I don't actually think he's very good in it. But I don't dislike this film, and never have. It's just the natural counterbalance to hearing so much praise for such an average film.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, I'm saying like, it's amazing, but I think it's just like it's like classic Bond. And for first outing, I think it's pretty strong, and I enjoy it.
You say for the first outing, though, but the Bonds normally have very strong first outings. All of them.
Really? But it's got like a memorable Bond girl, memorable villain, great set pieces, music, but not so much. But apart from that, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
When you said memorable Bond girl, I very, very nearly said which one, but that would have just sounded like I didn't remember her, which would have undermined you.
But obviously, Isabella is also very memorable, but obviously Xenia kind of launched Tom Kempton into global stardom, obviously before becoming Jean Grey. But yeah, that's it. And obviously Sean Bean, internationally famous actor.
Although Short Beam, obviously, not Sean Bean. We don't want to curse the man.
And the guy from Cracker.
Yeah, of course. I'll be trained, definitely.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, we shall initiate mission on 3. So, let's get cracking. One.
Wait. Let me get my controller. Hold on.
I gotta let her go and see if she's got a copy of Gold.
Wait, I'm ready now. Apologies.
Hang on a minute, just ordering.
It's on Netflix. Let me have a look.
Yeah, my home setup.
I've got on Golden Pond in.
On Golden Pond. Oh dear, it's a very different film. No, my home setup now is the fact that when my laptop isn't anywhere near my TV or my DVD player, so I haven't got it within easy reach. So
I've got a rip here because I'm nowhere near my Blu-ray player anymore. So
I have to be like Mr. Tickle, Mrs. Tickle, with really long arms.
whilst I'm watching an illegal copy of GoldenEye, I can actually say I've bought 3 copies and currently own a copy of GoldenEye, so I don't feel too bad about it.
Your conscience has been assuaged.
Yeah,
You've got Blu-rays, haven't you?
Peace is still getting royalties.
Good old Peace Benson. We like him a lot.
Yeah, I think if you actually own a copy, but that should be, by fairness, should be like illegal to actually illegally download.
Yeah, but I'm probably funding terrorism or something.
Yes, with what though? I don't know.
But then any of you who've been to see the Avengers Infinity War have also funded terrorism because you were complicit in paying for half of the universe.
Disney, Marvel, I don't know.
Yeah, half of the universe to die.
Half of the universe died, and you were there funding it, you bastards.
Damn it.
Spoiler alert for...
Damn it, you Kenny, you bastards.
Has anyone taken that thing whether you've been saved or...
Oh, did
or
ThanosKillYou.com or something like that?
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. What is it? Did I survive Infinity War? Is it
Or something? Yeah, I don't know what it was called, but
let me see now. Did I survive Thanos? Let's have a look.
I know
Did
I was
Thanos
spared,
kill Iron
which I
Man?
think is probably right. I think I probably would be spared if it was.
Did Thanos kill me? I was spared as well.
You're Batman. So did Thanos kill me?
What you're saying? You're saying Thanos wouldn't kill a superhero?
We kill fucking half of them in the...
Well, this is it.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, there you are, fans. So if Thanos did wipe up half the universe, we'd still have douchebags to talk, theoretically. Heavy cloud.
I'm surprised, Tony wasn't having a little listen at the end of that film. Because, how did this get made? Have been wiped out or something? So fuck it, I must well listen to this shit.
Unfortunately, I was slain by Thanos for the good of the universe. Oh dear.
Oh, well, I guess it's the twice-a-year Cinematronic special. summer review, anyone?
At least you guys survived.
Coming soon. Summer review 2018.
We would pay a fitting tribute, Becca.
Thank you.
Yeah.
By doing a commentary on GoldenEye.
Own tribute, Mr. Wind.
On 3, initiate mission. Are we ready?
I'm ready now.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Says Dave, rubbing his legs. 1, 2, 3.
Los.
Right. I don't know if I'll be perfectly in sync with you. Leo's roaring at the moment.
One thing that is positive about having this on mute whilst we do the commentary is we don't have to hear the terrible score.
The worst score in the official series.
Or the steel drums.
The steel drums are quite cool because there's a sound effect that you don't usually hear. I don't know within Western music, obviously, unless it's like a Caribbean scene, for example. I quite like this gun barrel. It's very smooth.
It's my favourite gun barrel.
Peace means business.
Peace means business.
Peace Benson. So, where's this list of Daves? Let's have a look.
So here we are. We've got him flying into a quite temperate region by the looking of it. And he'll be dropping down into a valley. So no snow, and not at the top of a mountain. So this will be fine. Can't see any logic problems coming up here.
Only a film.
How do you reckon he explained that rope at customs?
I need it for reasons.
They think they use a stunt double for the run. And
Use a stunt double.
Yeah, I know. Why did they use a stunt double for the run? That was really silly. Pierce can run. I've seen him do it.
This guy, I don't know, looks better running.
Yeah, but so does Usain Bolt, but you wouldn't put him in.
Well, exactly.
So this stunt was like the main, one of the main attractions about the film, wasn't it? Its main talking points was this stunt.
Yeah, that's one of the most
which is why I
pieces in
walked
the
out
series.
after 57 seconds. This guy fainted, actually. He just about got the gun out and pointed as he
Yeah, he
fainted.
did it on the first take as well.
Yes, but here, right here, assuming you're perfectly in sync with me, which is a big if, he's just about to get the gun out now. As he points it there, he fainted. And then that's obviously Pierce and some green screen. USS?
So conveniently, just as he went, like, over the rock, it's like, ugh, he fainted.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good man.
Thing is, right, when they were planning this mission, Pierce obviously said, I want to dive down. Where are the toilets? That's where I want to dive.
I need a wee.
All I was thinking was Taffin yesterday.
Oh,
What goes on in this shitter is none of your business.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be shitting here.
Oh god, we have to do a commentary of that randomly.
Has anyone actually seen Taffin?
I've never seen it. I've only ever seen it.
No.
Obviously, that's, what's she called? Jenny Flex he's talking to.
Yeah.
Hello?
Or is it Elsa in Last Crusade?
That's right. Now, that's where the character should have had a piss, just for verisimilitude.
We've never seen him do a wee, so...
It would have been a less traditional entrance, just having like, here's your first Bond, they just having to take a dump.
Fun fact, this is the first time we see Bond do a wee. Oh dear. So this really cracked me up. Obviously we have a habit of killing people off, unfortunately. So Dave came up with some fake names for the cast. So yeah, Peace Benson, Izzy Scorpio, Short Beam, a name I won't pronounce, Kid Jensen and John Doe Baker.
Yeah, Coltrane sounded slightly different and had an expletive in it.
There's also a jazz name. Then obviously when we do, when we come to, do the Godfather, when we come to cover the Godfather series, Martin Branding, Al Porcini, Tanya Devonshire, Joe Cantar, and Ron Duvet, which I thought was quite funny because I always mispronounce his name as Duvet.
England James!
No, for me! Yeah, he's got a really plummy English accent here.
He's got a fucking stupid voice in it. It absolutely ruins it.
He's like, yeah, hello.
What do you
He's like from Yorkshire or something, isn't he?
He should have stuck with his sharp voice.
Well, I just think
Yeah, his name
why
is
not?
Sharp.
If people genuinely believe GoldenEye to be one of the best in the series, who am I to argue? I'll disagree, but like I get it. It's a classic feeling Bond film.
We enjoy it. We enjoy it.
I sort of get it, but like anyone who says not Pierce Brosnan, Sean's one of the best villains in the series, I really don't get it because I think he's absolutely fucking dreadful in every way.
He gives a good performance, but I would say he's probably...
I wouldn't say that. I think he's terrible. I think poor choice of voice.
Fucking
stupid, smug expression most of the time, even before he supposedly goes bad. I think
it's the same as you could argue the same with Graves as well, because he's meant to be kind of like another, almost the anti-Bond. Version.
Graves was shit.
Well, exactly. It's meant to be on that kind of level, isn't it?
Right. Follow the logic of this carefully.
Well, no, I'm just saying that's why.
Well, to be fair, I mean,
that's why it's so crappy, is what is what it is.
Brosnan has the habit of having really smug, annoying villains. Like you think about Jonathan Pryce in.
Yeah, he was Mr. Smug.
Think of Richard.
Richard.
Who's that?
And maybe not so much in Was Not Enough, though she did that petulant towards the end.
She wasn't smug.
So Dave, how would you prefer Sean to have played this?
A different actor.
Different to what he did. How different?
It's largely the voice and it's the faces, but I just think he's all wrong for it. I just think he's all wrong for it entirely. I think he'd play it with your own accent. I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
Well, he does it on the train, does he? Goes full speed ahead, ram him, and it does break with the plummy English accent.
This makes no sense. They've been firing live rounds at the pair of them. And basically, they've got to fake Alec's death, and 007 has to get away to tell that story. Otherwise, why would you bother?
He does it because he's Bond.
It is a head scratcher, isn't it? You do think
it's mental.
You suspend your disbelief.
And I've just noticed how camply
he is actually standing. His hand on a hip.
Hello, sailor.
Come out with your hands above you.
Well, I was a naval commander. I am a sailor, yes.
And I don't get why he'd be picked. Well, I don't get how we can like resent him from like changing the timer. It's like, well, you were dead. It doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Although he pressed.
I always think his hat that he wears is too big for his head.
Oof, he's hurt. Oof. That's his other pain face.
I'll do sound effects for you.
Go for it, Becca.
Apparently, there is a version of an updated version of GoldenEye.
He does not take out the other gun.
Out.
He had 2 guns on him there, but it was the original gun. He did not take out the other gun, so he shot Sean Bean with a blank and that guy with a live round in the same fucking gun.
Well, unless he like deliberately just missed his head.
He just fell backwards.
007 escapes and he goes, I saw him shoot at Alec. What happened? He cracked a tile. Right, so now Pierce Brosnan has jumped on some travelator thing that is going to take him about 5,000 miles to a much colder climate in the mountains.
He's gone from a hot country to a cold country.
I know.
Or maybe, like, I'm just trying to think, maybe Alec wasn't in on the Russians at the moment, and it just, like, accidentally just missed him and didn't realise. And then they sort of found him alive, and he thought, hang on, no, I'm going to Terreneville now. So he thought, oh, okay, well, let's hatch a plan. That's probably the best explanation for it, because... Yeah,
to Oromov, he's like, you had me at a bullet in the head.
I know, like, you know, I'm a British spy, but... I
love the fact...
Do you want to be friends?
What I like most about this, and it's not the film, Chris, it's the fact that you're clearly drinking alcohol, having cut a gin trip.
Oh dear, it's Batman, don't you know?
I can hear the bottle.
Yeah, it's whiskey.
Oh, well, that's all right then. Nice and healthy, that.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So it's only a little bit.
Cool.
He's allowed it, it's medicinal.
Look, he's pursing his lips.
That's what he does best, purses his lips.
I've never noticed he did it there before. This is
he's pouting, isn't he?
I know.
Copying Daniel.
I mean, he's sort of a bit Derek Zoolander there.
Blue Steel? No.
This is like the one bit where you think, oh, okay, no, that's just taking the piss now.
Yeah, never like this. This bit here, he grabs onto the door and the ropes, and just as he went like that, the audience went, fuck off!
It is very unlikely.
And
only a film. This shot here looks very fake.
Having said that, this has got to be like another James Bond dies kind of thing.
But the thing is, yes, it has to.
Well, they tried to do it in this PTS, and then again in Tomorrow Never Dies PTS. Again, they were like, "Oh, Bond's dead," and then all of a sudden it's like he miraculously emerges from the danger zone.
This one's more memorable, but that's actually a better pre-title sequence. There's much more internal consistency.
Wow. We started doing that at the same time.
Written by Bono and the side.
Bono.
Boner.
And the sledge. And what's under his hat? Sledge.
Hang on, these women are in the nip.
Warning, folks, may contain nudity.
A bit like Oromov.
Starring the guy we just saw get killed. Sir, who won't be appearing in this film.
Sir may not be appearing in this night.
They really should have put that up, shouldn't they? Starring Sean Bean as... And then just
Sir not appearing in this film.
As...
As... He's dead, honest.
As Janus.
Two-Face God of War. Wasn't God who gave me this face, but that's not the point.
This looks a bit music video now. It is one of the better ones in the series, but it is starting.
I love it. It's very pretty. I think probably this, of all the Danny Climate ones, probably this and Casino Royale probably might be amongst my favourites.
Oh, I put a 2 or 3 ahead of this now, just because it's dating. That's all.
In terms of like the newer ones, definitely. It's a bit dated now, obviously, because
Skyfall and Casino Royale would go ahead of this. I'm not quite sure about
Reunification. But no, this is very dated now.
This is the one shot I don't like. The gun coming out of the mouth looks cheesy as fuck.
Oh yeah, it looks a bit weird.
Yeah, but it's the Two-Face of Janus.
But
Yeah, but he doesn't shoot anyone with his tongue, Chris.
Bang.
He should have done. But yeah, I just love the fact that anytime you pick a massive plot hole here, Becca goes, "It's a Bond. It's just a film, or it's just a Bond film." And I would just love to pitch a film in Hollywood, and just go, and then this happens, and then that happens, and they go, "That sounds a bit ridiculous," and I go, "It's a fucking film,"
It's just a film.
and see if they green light my pitch.
No, they'll probably be like,
I'm sure they would, you know.
"Does it have any boobs in it?" Yep. Sold!
You got nudity? Sold.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, you sell the Fast and Furious, so I'm sure being, like, realistic and making sense doesn't really matter that much, as long as it's sellable.
You'd like it to have some internal fucking consistency, though.
Well, yeah, but...
It's gone with an eye there, not another type of eye.
With an eye and not another type of eye.
Yeah.
That's really dated, that graphic effect.
Yeah, you don't see that so very often, do you?
Now, pay attention, 007. We understand you want to come back to the service.
9 years later.
So we're going to send you on a mission, and then during that mission, we'll evaluate you to go on that mission. And we found you a nice psychiatrist from the home county, so we think Monaco.
Monaco would be ideal for you.
The thing is, I can actually see... Yeah, this was obviously written in Dalton in mind, wasn't it, this segment?
It was, yeah.
And I can really kind of see it.
He'd have rocked that cravat.
He would have.
They had to
He
do a
would have
bit of
been
work
very
on that
classy.
car, because there's no way these cars should be anywhere near each other in terms of performance.
And also, there's a scene where you can clearly see it's a man driving that car, and not Famke Janssen. I think it's a scene where she kind of spins out of control, and it's obviously a bloke driving it.
All right. I remember that, but I don't remember if I ever noticed it was a man or not. Well, you can see her.
it's one of
You
those
can
things-
see in the mirror. Then it wasn't her.
No, it's one of the scenes. It's like the bit in Spy Who Loved Me when they're escaping on the wet bike, and it's on the speedboat. Sorry, and it's obviously a model. Obviously, the scene is literally like 2 seconds on screen, so you blink and you miss it.
Well, I can actually hear the music to this in my head because
Yeah.
it's the worst music in the film.
Yeah.
Have you seen the trailer to the new Johnny English film?
No, any
They,
good?
they basically do this bit. There's like a bit where they're...
There, it's a man.
Yeah, that's the one.
They
It's
do,
a man.
Yeah,
baby.
that's the scene.
a bit
Yeah,
manish.
it's a bloke. Yeah, it's a bloke in a wig. Damn it, Austin, you're talking about my mother.
Well, they redid all those jokes in Johnny English too, and they were awful.
Oh, God. No, I haven't seen that one yet. I must watch it.
Must
But
you?
the second one's really bad. Quite
I
happy
might
to watch
try it. Yeah, I don't know. I like the first John English film.
it. It was alright.
Second one, but it had Gillian Anderson in it.
Now
and
we've
I
got
think
no
she's amazing,
sound.
so-
This is going on for fucking ever.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
I know.
Oh, but the
for
cyclist.
someone, it's really, really
Yeah.
obvious now.
But
The cyclist.
But this is what I'm going to say. They do go to the same like road bit here, the same scene when they have the cyclist and he puts out a missile and it's like they're cyclists, sir. And it's like they're obstructing our Majesty's.
Yeah, they are.
So, but yeah,
Ladies first.
they do riff on this,
Yeah, I'll have to have a look at that one.
Okay.
and it's also got what's her name from Quantum. She's like
Olga.
So it does. Oh, yes,
Olga.
yeah, Olga. Olga Kurylenko. Actually, no, I tell a lie. I have seen it. That's a bit weird, though. It's random. Like, it's the third film in the franchise. Ooh, let's reference a film from 20-odd years ago.
See, I'm not convinced from her face there she's horny, but in just a second, she's going to be, oh, okay.
Ooh, sexy. Bottle of Bolly.
That doesn't strike me as the rubiest car. Where do you reckon he's going to do her?
On the back seat.
Yeah, okay.
smooth git.
It's a movie.
Yeah, from being like really uptight and being like really sort of strictly business, and
It's very easy all of a
just,
sudden.
Just stop the fucking car, and to like, oh, James.
You didn't just like bang each male psychiatrist.
Yeah, compare that, psychiatrist to the evaluator that Daniel Craig gets.
I don't reckon
Skyfall.
Daniel. I don't think that. That's probably why Daniel walked out. He was like,
Probably.
I'm not fucking him at the end of this,
Sent this guy? That's my usual.
He's been evaluated. We don't even quite know what he's doing there. He seems to know something about her, but we don't really know what. It's almost like he's on a mission, yet he's there being evaluated. You wouldn't evaluate someone to go back into the service while they're already on a mission for you.
No, we don't see Carolyn again, do we? So.
Well, no.
So.
She's probably turned gold.
Oh. No, she noted exceptional stamina.
This is a pretty casino.
Things so you just hire like all guys, wouldn't you, to deal with Bond? You'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, all
Well,
middle-aged.
she's female. That ain't fucking happening. Where's the nearest
all
bloke?
middle-aged bricklayers with hands like fucking shovels.
Well, the war women, sir. Oh, for fuck's sake. Right, okay. What's the ugliest one we have?
Yeah. Pay attention, 007. We've assigned you a munter. Yes. But,
Well,
any holes go.
but knowing Bond, they'll fuck 'em fit, as you say.
Fuck 'em fit. That's Rocky that does that.
Yeah.
Fuck someone whilst wearing a torn fucking vest, and they're like fit in the next scene. I mean, basically, if he'd taken one from the team and fucked all the Expendables, he would have been surrounded by a ton of fit women.
Yeah, Frankie Jensen is actually really good here.
Yeah, she is.
I always think she's a bit underused, though. But I don't
She's
know
not in this film that much, really.
I don't know whether that's because she playing it a bit too over the top.
Madam stands with 5. She too likes to live dangerously.
Yeah. My name is Richie Cunningham, and this is my wife, Oprah.
No, it's like allow myself to introduce
Myself.
myself.
I cannot hear the word
Richie Cunningham.
5 in a casino now without thinking.
I also like to live dangerously. Oh, dear.
Hello there, vagina.
A lot of fudge. I'm sorry, for a minute there, I thought your name was Otter. Never mind.
It's the emphasis he puts on the F. A lot of vagina.
Oh, that's why it's so funny. Oh my god. Mind you don't see him coming back and doing another Austin Powers film, do you?
There was talk of doing a 4th, but
They're always
Mimi has died.
talking about, but what are you going to do now? I mean, it's too long.
They've done it all.
Yeah.
On the top. I'll be very surprised if you come back and did another one.
I can't really see Atmeyer's coming back. Really, he's looking a bit, chunky now.
Yeah.
No, I was quite surprised to see him in Inglourious. Actually, I've totally forgot he was in that film.
Yeah, but I mean that's getting on for a decade ago. I mean,
I
he's
know.
aged since then. Do you know what I mean? And
that was under a man.
the last comedy I saw him in was The Love Guru, which was awful.
Oh, that was terrible.
I've
Oh my
never
god.
seen Love Go.
I wouldn't bother, Chris. It's not even so
No.
bad. It's good. You won't laugh once, and you'll wonder why you bothered. It's not funny.
And that wasn't Heather Graham in that one as well.
Oh, I don't know. A long time ago since I saw it.
Was it? Yeah, I think.
But Justin Timberlake was in it.
Oh, if Heather Graham's in it, go ahead and watch it, Chris. You'll probably might enjoy it.
No, it was somebody else who was in Austin Powers with him.
Probably
that's
Mini-Me.
terrible.
Vern Troyer, who's in it.
Can't tell the difference between Vern Troyer and Heather Graham.
We've already killed him off, so.
He was crap as Roller Girl.
This feels very Bondy-esque.
This
That's pretty cool.
feels a bit Roger Moore, doesn't it? A bit Spy Love Me and stuff.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit Live and Let Die.
Yeah? Where are you thinking of in that? Oh, the whole voodoo stuff.
Yeah.
Does now with the smoke behind him and that, but as he ran up through that amphitheatre...
Well, there was a bit in the hotel. There was stuff going on there that kind of, I think that's more specifically I was thinking of. Yeah, this is basically just Bond just mooching around, isn't he? Just like, she's caught my attention.
Yeah, but he sends it to him. I said there is a continuity error there. He lifts it to one eye and it's at the other. But yeah.
Oh.
But he sorted it out because he narrowed his eyes and pursed his lips. Saved the scene. And now he's doing it again.
That's like his signature move.
That's his expression.
That and pain face.
Yep. Roger's pain face.
Roger's pain face?
Compared with Bros's pain face, I think Bros has the ultimate pain face.
I can't think of what Roger's pain face looks like.
Or he goes,
that's his pain noise. He's got a pain grunt.
But the face when he pulls it, also. But yeah, Pierce is famous for the pain face. Like,
not so much in this film, but yeah.
It is.
They changed this guy to Canadian to appease the Americans because they didn't like the idea of her being crushed, American soldier being crushed between a woman's thighs.
No. And the Russian woman.
Did they really?
She's very fucking sweaty there. He must be reasonably
quite
tired.
sweaty.
Well, yeah, he doesn't look the... Yeah, he does look like a sweaty individual, doesn't he?
Mm.
Jeez. You would be thinking, fuck, she's a crazy bitch, wouldn't you?
Well, it's a controversial view, Chris, but I think I'd agree on balance. You know, I'm not sure she's quite all there. There's just been a bloke stood in the corner of the room watching them.
Correct. Yeah, how long he's been there?
Mm.
So is that meant to be Janos, i.e. Alec, or is that meant to be the
What, the hand?
Yeah.
I have no idea who the hands was. I don't think Alec is there.
Or Oromov.
Well, it'll be one of the two people who are gonna. The other guy who's gonna.
I like this shot here.
What, he looks out the window?
No, he looks in the reflection.
Mm.
That's very clever. You don't see that very often.
Well, it's completely done, really. On Martin Campbell.
Yeah, no, it's very clever. I do like Campbell as a director. But obviously, it's a callback to GoldenEye. Night Goldfinger.
Do you think they'll bring him back for when they?
Fucking hope not.
It'll be 2022 before that happens.
I hope not. It'll be A's getting a little bit too old now, and B, not A and secondly, that doesn't work. B, his filmography is really, really fucking spotty. It's really, really hit and miss. And actually, I don't rate GoldenEye as highly as most people. So I just think all you can do is sully Casino Royale. Move forward. With somebody else. Not Martin Campbell again.
Mm. I take your point, though.
I wouldn't be devastated if it was him, because he's done quite well in this series.
Well, that's just it. It just seems like...
It seems to suit him.
Yeah. I mean... GoldenEye's not my favourite, obviously, but...
No, but it's a really decent Bond film, and it has a feel to it.
Yeah.
It does have a feel to it. Casino Royale has that too.
Yeah, the issues are with, with script writers, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And score. But again, that's probably producers, because they jump on bandwagons. So Leon was the previous year. This would have been a producer thing, the score.
Yes.
I used to be so respectful of Eon, and as time's going by, I'm getting ever more hardened that, get rid of it, for fuck's sake, take this series off them.
Yeah, I think you speak for most of the fan base, because we're all getting a bit impatient now.
Mm. It's not to disrespect anything they've done at all, but it's time. Sell it.
Or just like pass it on to people who know what they're doing. Like sort of just get producers who will do it. Will actually work on it. Like as you say, if they're like tired, as Daniel Craig said in that interview.
They certainly need more voices involved. It's two of them, and the other thing is your creativity wears out eventually. I mean, Michael G. Wilson's written quite a few of the films in the early days. They were always involved in creative decisions and where they want the story to go. It stands to reason that after a few decades, you're probably a bit fucking out of ideas. You know? And why would an 80-year-old and a 60-year-old, as they nearly are, know about like video games and wider franchise things? There's just not the skill set there now, I don't think. And yeah, I think they should be ashamed of themselves, 4-year gaps. I just think without it being purely legal or studio, a 4-year gap, you should be ashamed of yourself for this series. Particularly, it's been thrown into sharp relief by yearly Star Wars and yearly Marvel. I'm not saying it should go yearly, but other franchises are taking like kids' attention now. Bond is going to look like a dinosaur when it comes back.
Yeah, it needs to catch up really, and it's just like even it too late in the day for Barbara Rocky to decide that she wants to try a creative.
I mean, you can still
elsewhere. It's like, what?
You can still rescue it with a cracking Bond film, but if we get a fantastic Bond film next time out, say, and then nothing again for years afterwards, you're just not striking while the iron's hot. I mean, I'm not the biggest Skyfall fan, but Skyfall is a successful, respected, deeply popular film. You know, and they left that 3 years and put very little in between, and you just think, yeah, there's no momentum there. Very divisive character in this film, Boris. I can't fucking stand him.
Well, at least he's a baddie.
Yeah.
He gets his comeuppance. He's not like Bond's unwittingly sidekick. You have to go, for fuck's sake.
Tits! Oh, alright, no.
I am invincible.
Boris Goodishenko.
What was that sitcom he was in where he was like like...
God, he was like set in like an airport or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was like
what was it?
An air host. Well, I will say air hostess, obviously he wasn't. But...
Flight attendant.
Yeah, flight attendant, yeah.
I never saw it.
God, yeah, no, I remember that as well. That's like
I
90s.
barely remember it, but I can't even remember what it was called.
Wasn't it called The High Life or something?
Yes.
But yeah, I think it was.
Yes,
that's right.
Mm. Do you know, I'm remembering you saying that on a podcast. I'm not remembering the show. You knew it before. You've mentioned
It's just drifted from memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm remembering you. I'm telling you a fact based on you telling me a couple of years ago.
God. You know you're getting old when...
I used to be able to do that with my dad because he had a shit memory. So he'd tell me something, like a fact, an interesting fact, a fun fact, in fact. And you'd go, oh, right, brilliant. And then like a year later, you'd tell him and he'd go, really? And he was always really impressed.
You're like, you told me that.
Oh, no, I wouldn't give that away.
I didn't know, but you wouldn't tell him. No, I remember, like, I think...
Amazing.
My dad did that with me, and it was like, oh, I heard so-and-so. And I was like, because I told you that. And he's like, oh. So...
Is slughead an actual thing in Russia?
I wouldn't have thought so. Could be, but I wouldn't have thought so.
Don't know.
I'm going for the cigarettes while my colleagues go and murder you all.
But we can look at this nice picture.
Yeah, you can tell GoldenEye was made on a smaller budget than sort of action films of its era.
But I do love the miniatures and bigatures. That's what I really appreciate, like in-camera effects. I mean, the visuals.
That doesn't
look
really
well.
That doesn't look so bad. For example,
some of them you can tell.
Points of this film do look like really bad.
Right,
yeah, funny. I mean, it wouldn't have been time. They had pretty comfortable production on all of this because Brosnan was in place nice and early.
Mm.
They've been writing versions of the script for bloody years.
Amazingly enough, that
Remember those days where they, like, you know, didn't half-ass around for a script just as they were filming it?
And then give it to a writer, then go, yeah, let's give it to...
Leave that writer alone for ages because you trust him, then we go, oh.
Or they give it to, like, Wade and Pierce, or...
Yeah, because that's the best you can find, Purvis and Wade.
Yes.
I don't think they're as bad as they're painted, but, like, again, it's the Bond series. Why do you keep giving it to them? Give varied voices. Come on.
But I mean, were they the sole writers of the others beyond here? Like, I know they were co-wrote Casino and things like that, but were they the sole writing credit for Die Another Day?
In later years, they've had people come in and do polishes on it and stuff. So, Paul Haggis and Jez Butterworth, or whatever he's called, and others.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they started with The World Is Not Enough, didn't they? And I don't know. I think they were sole writers.
Yes, I think they did.
Unless Abded's wife got a credit, because she wrote some dialogue and stuff.
I wonder how much it is compared to what the studio wants. Like, here's the thing, they'll get credit for it, but I probably bet that it's not really what they would have stuck to had they had sole credit.
Oh no, I think they're fairly compliant. I mean, they wrote Die Another Day and they wrote Casino Royale. And that tells you they're fairly compliant. You know, because, I mean, in the latter film, even the lines worked. You know, they should write any... I don't know. But I don't understand. Arguably, well, it's probably a sign of the times. It's probably the fourth biggest franchise
for 12A, isn't it?
But it's one of the big...
Yeah, it's a bit graphic.
World. It's the longest lasting. And they've been using the same writers for like 20 years. You just think, like... Not to knock them, but you would just think for sheer variety, you know, you'd get some other voices in. I do think the series is being hopelessly mismanaged at the moment. It's not to say they were always mismanaging it, but they are now. The modern...
Oh, yeah, I would say they really are now.
Series, you know, there should be more of a multimedia presence. Well, I've said all this before, but yeah, there's a lot they're not doing. And I think a 4-year gap is absolutely disgusting for basically a one-trick pony of a studio.
Especially when your Bond's aging fast.
That's the problem. You cast them quite near to middle age anyway, and that's right and proper. So you've got a decade before they start looking a bit too old. You know what I mean? If you're lucky, on average. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less, depending on who it is. So you start wasting 4 years here and 3 years there and 4 years again. The Craig era has been a terrible waste. It's just had no momentum at all. If the fifth one's good, then I think we can come out and say, well, you'd put Casino Royale, Skyfall, and that fifth one up against like the best three of anyone else, maybe, and you would go, well, that, on balance,
that's a decent run.
Yeah, it's a decent run, but it could have been so much more. If the fifth one isn't really good, then I will genuinely think it's been a dreadful waste.
Well, you could have had like 5 already, and he could have been like out.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, you should have had 5 by now, really. But yeah, when they said after like 2 years after the last film, right? Well, we got Daniel, and now we're starting to look at the script. It's like, what? Starting?
Here's the thing I don't understand, and maybe it's like a studio movie business type thing, but why haven't they like got people coming up with scripts and ideas while the one's in production? While the one's being filmed, they might be thinking ahead, just like, look, just so we've got something to run with for next time. And we can iron it out and make it like perfect.
Yeah, they must get spec scripts all the time as well. There must be so much material that comes to them with different ideas, and yeah, there must be, most writers out there, genuine creatives, would have ideas as well. You could go to almost, any decent writer and they would have a take on a Bond film, I reckon. But
I do think this, because it's like, what, about 40 minutes almost? now we're just getting to the Moneypenny scene. I think this
37, yeah.
Yeah, this does kind of like ruins the pace a little bit.
It should be like 15 to 20 minutes maximum. Yeah. But
I mean, that may be a bit of a traditionalist speaking, maybe. But I think given that this is the first one, you need to kind of go right.
Maybe they wanted the focus to be on him. I wouldn't be surprised if that was deliberate. Let's just have half an hour where the focus is just him. Maybe, I don't know. It's funny because Brosnan has chemistry with almost nobody, but he has pretty good chemistry with the Moneypenny.
She is pretty decent Moneypenny, though, to be fair.
She's good in the first two. The latter two, she becomes a simpering fucking idiot. That's not the actress, that's the script.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's one of those helicopters. That's the one that's got the escape chute right by your head. Who designed that? You see something fly past you, weren't quite sure what it was, so you turn your head really quickly to see what it was and eject yourself from the fucking helicopter. Oh look, it's Martin Bathroom.
I thought you were referring to Judi Dench there.
Judy Stench?
Yes.
P. Spencer. Oh dear.
To be fair, she doesn't look that
The
different.
good news, Alex Ferguson is out of intensive care.
She does if you see her in Skyfall right after.
Yeah.
She aged quite a lot, actually. We expected to in like getting on for 20 years, but yeah, it is noticeable.
Being is very stressful, you know.
They don't normally do that sort of job in real life for 2 decades.
No, it's, you didn't go on that long, I don't think.
Yeah, to prepare for the role, Judi Dench actually was
she was head of security service for all that time.
Yeah.
Really threw her in there, like.
Actually, in the fictional world, they stay in the job longer because, like, they're getting loads of like saucy sex stories from Bond every time he comes back. I'll stick it around for this. I've no idea why they take the new Bond girl for a new era and dress her like that. I know she's at work, but that's particularly dowdy.
It's very, very 90s.
I'm saying she should have just been dressed in a thong or something.
And then contrast that to later on when they're in the satellite dish. When she's got the action scenes, so they tend to really kind of smarten her up a little bit.
Yeah.
And portray her more as like an action heroine. I think that's a nice contrast. Just in terms of the costumes, that's all. Whereas like whenever you see Xenia, she's always in black, tight fit costumes, like leather or quite provocative outfits.
I guess. I mean, it's like, mid-90s, so maybe they just didn't quite know what to do, or I don't know, I forget what...
What tone do we go for? Do we make her a bit more realistic? She's at work.
Well, in indie filming, you know, she's quite
I'm not saying
well-known when it
tart
comes to
her up, I'm saying you couldn't have gone dowdier.
There was probably a level of, what's her character, what will be appropriate, so there's probably like, let's start off like...
What sort of budget would you have? What clothes would you be able to afford?
Kinda. I mean, I don't know, but...
Well, don't wear any clothes if you can't afford them then. We'll just have her in the nude.
Turn up in her underwear.
Alan Cumming? Well, she is naked.
But I was trying to look up the plane program that he was in. Then I looked up a fun fact on IMDb.com. They said, it has its own aftershave called Coming, and I was like, oh god, really?
Coming. They should have just called it Come, shouldn't they?
He really should have done. No, I quite enjoy him in this film.
Yeah.
And
I'm upstairs spraying myself.
He's obviously an X-Men as well, which is a great big boost, which I like a lot. I'll put on there, she died.
The Nightcrawler sequence at the start of X2 is probably still the best set piece in the entire X-Men film.
I think that's really cool, and I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah.
It's quite memorable as Nightcrawler as well.
We'll review that series when we run out of literally everything else.
Yeah, I quite like to do the X-Men series.
Well, the first two were all right, then they're all shit. Well, that's not quite true.
And then
That's
Logan,
not-
which is
First Class is
amazing.
decent.
First Class is great.
First Class is alright. The one after that, not so much. And then Logan is fantastic.
No, I think you're both forgetting Days of Future Past as well, but I still prefer First Class.
Yeah, no, First Class is pretty good. I like it a lot.
But it's not a series I'm that bothered about, though. They never made another one, and of course they have, and they were, there is stuff coming out. It's been delayed for fucking months, which is a great sign that
Offshoots of it, haven't you now, from that universe? So, like The Gifted and Runaways.
Yeah, I think just waiting for it to fully fall into Marvel's hands.
Yeah.
Sure. And now you've got Deadpool as well. So.
Yeah, Deadpool's fine for 2 or 3. That joke's going to wear itself thin, though, isn't it?
I've got a feeling it's going to push its limit after the second one.
In fact, when I went to Deadpool, I laughed in all the right places, found it really funny, came out going, that was great. Rewatched it a few months later on home release. I didn't buy it or anything, but I watched it on home release and didn't enjoy it anywhere near as much. It was like a one watch. I'm not fussed about watching it a second time. I'll watch the second one, probably laugh in all the same places, and I've learnt my lesson. I won't bother watching it a second time, even if it's great.
It depends, because there is, you always felt with the first Deadpool, there were certain limitations on what it could do, because it does that much of a challenge. It was like, okay, will this character actually work? And it had such a limited budget that they couldn't do they could only do so much. So there was that element to it. So there is like a part of the second one. Now we know it's a confirmed thing.
I wonder where the new one's going to go.
Sorry, Becca, you're breaking
I
up.
wonder, how far got third or fourth. No, I just wonder how far the series is going to go. I finally got around to watching the first one on streaming.
Really?
But I eventually got around to watching it. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was quite funny. But with the second one, I'm kind of thinking, is it going to be like a long franchise, or is because it's done with very much tongue in cheek. It's quite ironic. It's very knowing. It's very meta. So I wonder.
Yeah, I think it'd be very short because maybe because it's going from experience I had the other week. I was watching it with someone who is not a fan of Ryan Reynolds, just does not get him, and I thought, oh, you probably like Deadpool because it's kind of this your kind of sense of humour, and you try watching a film with someone who is just actively not enjoying it, it completely changes the whole thing. It's like, oh shit, all of a sudden this film's not funny anymore. Oh, okay.
It is funny once.
It
is funny once, but you watch it a second time, there's hardly anything to it. I think it's budgetary. They had about 7 million cut off their budget.
Yeah, it's quite low budget, wasn't it?
So it's basically 2 set pieces and a load of other stuff, and that's it. But it just didn't have any rewatch value. It's not that I thought it was a bad film or that it was worse on second watch. It's just one of those films I could only really watch once. I've learned my lesson with the sequel now. I'll watch it and that'll be it.
I think the sequel everyone will like. It'll probably be okay, but I think beyond that it will run tired. It'll be one of those things that everyone enjoy the second one, but I don't think they'll be appetite for the third one. I think everyone will be like that, but do.
Oh, look, he's cracking jokes about Patrick Stewart and stuff. It's like, we've got the format now. So anyway, she's about to give Pierce Brosnan a talking to.
Now listen here, Bond.
Now listen here, Bond. You're entirely too interested in Muff.
Please stop it.
I sent you a buxom young psychiatrist and you fucked her.
I call that misuse of government property.
While I'm here, can I just ask, did you do her in that tiny cub?
Yeah, I
was on the top.
I was on the top of things, madam.
When he dropped the car with the valet, I was just thinking about the cum stains. Kind of thing.
Yeah,
the valet gets out and the seat goes with him. Yeah.
He goes back. Yeah, there's some stains.
It's a bit sticky in there. Just warn you.
Oh, gross. This is still relevant many years on.
Do you think Pierce is thinking, is she fuckable?
Oh, no. Oh my god.
I was just evaluating. I'll go with a no, but the main reason is I'm a bit iffy about buttons and I wouldn't want to be undoing that fucking thing.
I don't know, she does drink a whiskey straight, so...
You think I'm an accountant, even though I'm, like, pissed at work?
Yeah, she's always drinking, like, bourbon or something.
And I've just
like,
been talking about... And I'm just talking about how much you're into muff.
Our tax dollars.
a bean counter.
Dollars at work.
Which is not how we refer to it here at all, because that's not our currency. But we wouldn't say tax pounds either.
No, I know. I was reading something offline, and I was like, no, that's not right. Oh, no.
Yeah, what we'd say? We'd say, what, tax funded?
Yeah. I think I might concentrate on trying to talk about the film for a bit.
I think I might. I was trying to catch up on the news to see if I can get any more info on
whether Ennio Morricone's still alive.
Well, we didn't mention Anne V. Coates, and she's unfortunately passed away.
After all of that, come back alive.
Come back alive. He's not going to come back dead, is he?
Well, he might do. They're delivering back in a body
Very
bag.
small boxes.
Fucking shit, Michael G. Wilson cameo here.
Oh, it's great. And then
I really don't like him making cameos anyway, because he's not a director. It's just like...
That's quite interesting, though, but he's been involved with the series forever. I like The One in Tomorrow Never Dies. Consider him slimed. I think that's brilliant.
It's funny. It's dreadful. It takes me right out of the film. It's
cringy.
That's the point.
Like
it's fucking rubbish. I don't enjoy
it's like when you see Hitch, you know, it's like it takes you out of the film.
I don't want to watch things that are shit for the sake of it. Like, God, man, look how shit that is. I really don't. It's bad. And he's not an actor. So you've now got a table full of people who react to what he says now like actors, and one bellend in the middle who can't do it.
But he's not on screen for very long.
Exhibit C for why this is such a fucking series, so he stops indulging himself.
I feel really bad because I can't pronounce his actor's name, but I think he's a bit underused.
Chicky Cario.
Yeah. He's a bit underused in this.
I can't pronounce it either, but I gave it a go. He's really good. He was in a TV series recently, wasn't he? He also did coffee adverts.
Did he?
Is he Gareth?
Yeah, he was in
No, he's well, apart from being like the villain in the first Bad Boys film,
yeah,
he's the guy, the main guy in Nikita.
That's the one.
Was he in Nikita?
Yeah, he's the main guy.
No, was he in Nikita?
I believe so. Or at least there was probably, I don't know, I can't remember now.
Oh shit, there's a survivor. We should kidnap her and put her on an armoured train.
I think that was it. That was a good series.
What was?
Yeah, no, it's called Missing.
You're breaking up a bit.
Yeah. It's called Missing.
That he was in. It was pretty.
Apologies, Becca seems to be breaking up.
Either that, or she does a brilliant Norman Collier impression. Nice hit reference for you kids out there.
So we're nearly an hour into the film and we're getting the Q scene.
Yeah, my internet connection is very poor.
We may have to drop you out and dial you back in, actually. We'll keep the film running, but we may have to drop you out and dial you back in. We'll see how it goes.
So.
Alright. Well, this is a bit odd having the Q scene like halfway through the film, really.
Yes. People don't
it's
notice.
Kind of like they got all the building blocks of Bond, but just not in the right order. They're not kind of where they should be.
That's the thing, but fans of this film never notice any of this. They just see all the accoutrements and a nice new young Bond and new sets.
Shiny.
And yeah, exactly. I think that's so much of this film, because actually when you break it down, it's all in the wrong place and the plot doesn't make any sense.
That's kind of what,
and this is an hour into the film, right? And in a minute he'll get out in the field and not that much really happens in the second half.
No, the rest of it is all pretty much flash bang. But it's the same with like For Your Eyes Only, for example. It essentially has 2 Q scenes. Obviously, that I've come to enjoy that film a lot more. But you essentially get 2 Q scenes, and then but where they come in the film really takes you out. And
You can see him looking off camera. You can see him looking off to the side to read his lines.
Sadly, you can, because obviously he needs idiot boards.
And I'm afraid that's the director. That's the thing. Everyone thinks Mark Campbell's
he was like 80 odd. He was quite.
Yeah, but there was no. Yeah, but when you film it like that.
But shut up.
When you film him like that, it's fine because it's quick cuts and Tomorrow Never Dies. There was no problem because the scene wasn't shot like that. They shoot too much in long, wide takes.
No, it's because they tried to shoot it obviously.
Look how swollen his hands are.
In the lab too. So there's a lot of shots, reverse shot.
What?
His hands are really swollen.
Yeah, he's got problems going on.
Not to bag him because he's an old guy here, but
that would be heart problems or something. I would have thought.
Yeah. Bang.
The writing's on the wall.
Along with the rest of him. The thing is, though,
and years later, that would win us an Oscar.
Yeah, it didn't win us an Oscar.
Well, not us, but the Bond
series. Frankly, I don't want to win an Oscar for that song. It's fucking ridiculous to win an Oscar for that song.
I'd quite like to win an Oscar.
Yeah, but not for that song. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You make a load of really great music and great albums and that, and all the major awards elude you.
An Oscar for Bond.
You write a complete pile of shit and get an Oscar for it. And it'd be like first line of his obituary as well. It's fuck.
Okay.
Yeah, but isn't that the same for quite a lot of people though? Like they always end up getting an Oscar for something for not their best work.
No.
Scent of a woman.
No.
Smelly.
I don't think I've seen Scent of a Woman in its entirety.
He's fucking dreadful in it, and he won an Oscar for it. And then you look back at his 70s work, and it was all great.
Is that because he played a blind man?
It's because he played about 5 characters in one. I think he was certainly doing the volume of about 5 people. Really shouty, over the top performance. It was awful.
Think it was because it was Pacino, and he hasn't won an Oscar yet.
It was due,
and he was playing a blind guy. That was the factor of it. It's like, give him the Oscar.
Yeah.
Because that's how shallow the Oscars are.
So if you want to win an Oscar, play someone who's like impotent or something. You've got to have a disability.
Or play a historical figure of some sort.
Yeah, like Benny Hill.
Yes.
So play Benny Hill as impotent and win an Oscar. I could write that. So this is actually Epsom Downs.
Can you imagine your relief that he didn't say Felix Leiter?
Sort of. I still wish they'd managed to put Felix Leiter in this because he could have worked with a false leg.
Yeah.
But that's because I don't like the Wade character. But then, having said that, I largely dislike the Wade character because of next week. Well, I say next week. We're not recording Tomorrow Never Dies next week, and in real time, they didn't release it the following week. So that doesn't work, does it?
But next week, if you travel back in time to our original GoldenEye podcast.
Yeah, a week after that, Tomorrow Never Dies.
Or what was his character name in Living Daylights?
Brad Whitaker.
Brad Whitaker, yeah. It's not something that's Brad Whitaker.
The arms dealer.
Brad Whitaker, yeah. It's not Brad Whitaker on the straight and narrow now. It's like,
alright,
Bond, I'm alright now.
Trouble. We'll skip over how much trouble Chris had with the words Brad Whitaker there.
That was technical.
Well, he's got a busy time at the gym, don't you know?
I know, he did half a press up.
Plus he was Batman, so...
If I was making this film, I would not have her read out the specs here because it just dates the film terribly. Of course, the film's going to date. Look at the units and the monitors and stuff.
The giant CRT monitors.
But it's drawing more attention to it. She actually reads out the specs of the computer she wants to test.
The bargains now.
I would like an abacus.
I would like a IB. No, what was it?
I would like
ABC.
A Spectrum, a Commodore.
I would like to test a Spectrum. in Cheltenham.
That's quite funny. 500 meg, wow, oh my god.
All looking tight in his ties. Oh, you're making me nervous.
He's,
Ready.
yeah.
Madam requires a sexy demonstration.
I've never noticed how wide that comb over is as well. How far
No,
down
it's
his
quite
thigh.
greasy, isn't it? Big sign. Incoming email.
Yeah, that's not suspicious at all.
No. I love how his jumper's like the Lego Wired magazine. Oh, I've actually been to the GoldenEye church.
See, this scene would have worked better had we not had that cutaway to him.
Yeah, takes you out of it.
No, but it would have it would have been like, oh, is it really him? Or...
Particularly as it's coming up on the screen, trust no one. Well, shit, who am I talking to?
You could be anybody.
Well, but also adds like plausibility because we don't know.
Look at that
Like,
bustling metropolis.
He could be he could be hidden away like.
How are they coping
like,
with all
like
that
her.
traffic? Yeah.
You want a quiet day. Probably filmed it on a Sunday. Not so much traffic.
I don't think even on a Sunday it's that quiet. But I bet it pissed off like all the regular commuters, but like, fuck's sake.
Bloody hell.
Trying to get to work.
No.
It's very cinematic.
So, obviously, as per our review of this episode, the church seen on the outside is very different to what's on the inside.
Are you telling us that the movies lie to us, Becca?
Yes.
I thought it was all real.
This church, Hagia Sophia, that cross is all red, but that's actually in London. It's very beautiful, very beautiful. If you're lucky enough to try and visit it, if you've taken interest in Greek churches, I would recommend it. Maybe try to go like during Mass, for example, but we just rocked up over the weekend.
Where was it again?
I can't remember what it is now. Oh, bloody hell. I need to look it up. It's basically, Hagia Sophia in... Oh, I can't think what it's called.
It's Boris, it's Boris, it's Boris.
Boris, please don't go. But it's really beautiful. Let's just have a look.
Yeah, it does look nice. Mini Driver?
I always felt this film had been like cut to shreds because some of it was things I didn't know, like the car's hardly in it, and I didn't realise that's because they inked the deal so late. Or they thought they had the deal, so I think they filmed a bit with it, but they weren't sure. I can't really remember because I always thought the Q scene was shot early. I meant to point out how stiff Brosnan looks in that scene, but I forgot as we were watching it. But
Bayswater, sorry.
But the other thing that really makes me think the film's been cut is there was a lot of hype around Robbie Coltrane being in it. And he was interviewed on things, and he was saying, yeah, I played this Russian gangster and all the rest of it. And he's in one relatively short scene. I do think they might have cut a bit more of him. Can't say for certain, but I think they may have done.
I think it was mostly just because he was a name, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually he will have been. This will have been in and around him filming the third series of Cracker.
I would say, yeah, he's pretty much Cracker by this point.
Yeah, this would have shot in early '95. Well, they were shooting Cracker early in '95, the third series.
You know what I reckon it is, Dave? I think it's because of that, because he was like a name, and I think it was almost like a semi-distraction from the fact that, well,
yeah,
then people
You've got another big name British actor.
People might anticipate him to be the villain because he's like what
Yeah.
Coltrane playing a Russian gangster, right? He's gonna
Yeah.
be rather than say Sean Bean who plays the MI.
With that masterful misdirection
Yeah.
at the start of the story. Yes.
Yeah. That's probably their thinking.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Cracker. I can't remember a more acclaimed British television show. It was just. We had less in the way of multi-channel TV at the time, although we had some. So more, these things got larger audiences than they do now anyway. but I can't remember a show that just got such a uniform acclaim in this country. There's been several from the US since, but certainly in this country, I think Cracker might be one of the finest things we've ever produced.
Yeah, I think this one, and then what was the one that Helen Mirren was in?
Prime Suspect.
Yeah.
But the only Prime Suspect,
that's the other one.
Yeah, but that was really only the first double-parter that was like really, really acclaimed.
Sure, but I'm just trying to think of other sort of similar crime dramas. But no, I would say definitely, I would agree with you on that point, Dave.
But yeah, Cracker was absolutely terrific.
Any US listeners, obviously, it's not just about a southern white dude. But if you can, try to seek out the show. It is really brilliant.
Obviously, you had your own version over there with Robert Pastorelli, but you want to find the British version. It's really good.
It wasn't quite the same, but I tried to live up there.
It had a lot of British actors in it as well. You know, like you got Christopher Eccleston in it for a certain amount of time. You had Robert Carlyle in there as well.
Yep.
In Cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Christopher Eccleston was in like the first series and like most of the first stories, because what you'd have a story that would go over 2 or 3 parts, and there would be like 3 or 4 of them in a series or something like that, and he was killed in I think the second episode of the second series, the second season, as you would know it over there, by Robert Carlyle. He was killed with a bayonet.
Was there there was a famously tense scene, isn't there, between him and Coltrane?
Not that
I can't think what it is.
Yeah, it's not that famous, is it?
Well, no, I think because I remembered it when we reviewed Word Is Not Enough. It was one of my fun facts.
Oh, he does interrogate him.
Coltrane appeared together, and it was.
No, there was a scene where he interrogated him. And
all I didn't kind of watch it, but I was aware of it growing up.
Oh, it was great. That episode.
A bit too young at the time, obviously. Growing up in the 90s.
With the episode where he killed Bilbro. No, the final episode where they introduced DCIYs. That coincides with a really, really traumatic day in my life that I won't go into. But it took me years to see.
Okay.
It took me years to see the third part because of what happened that day. So I just didn't get to see any TV that day. But years later, I saw the rest of that Albie Kinsella story.
It's a well-known storyline, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. It is probably the most famous storyline in that show. Albie Kinsella, played by Renard.
Renard.
Which is why we all thought he was going to be great as Renard, and then they completely wasted it.
He wasn't.
Because Albie Kinsella's better than
head and everything.
Yeah, Albie Kinsella's
so it's basically calling back Kinsella and also Trainspotting.
Yeah, he's better than Begbie though, is what I'm saying as a performance. Albie Kinsella.
Oh, for sure. No, I think there was. I remember, probably mid 2000s. I think there was like 100 most tense scene countdown, and obviously I was familiar with both actors, obviously through Bond, but I was obviously too young to have seen Cracker like properly growing up.
I don't remember it being that tense. I know he interrogated him at one point, but there were other actors in it that I've seen in lots of different things. I need to have a look actually. Let me look up Cracker because I'm sure there's 1 or 2 other links in there. Feel free to talk about this film while I'm looking.
What, this sex fight scene?
Sex fights, yeah.
Oh, trying to break me. Watch out for Bros's pain face.
Oh, it's bloody awful. She goes around his thighs in a minute. Puts her thighs around him in a minute. The face he pulls. It's awful.
Xenia speaks with pleasure.
There we are. There's the birth of the
pain face.
Or maybe you shouldn't be living here.
Bros so hairy. Oh my god.
Yeah, you go. So Robert King was played by David Calder. He was in Cracker as well.
That's the one.
I knew there was another link. There's probably more than that, but that's the one I was thinking of.
That's fun.
He just knocks a guy out with just a casual fling of a bucket.
I know. They just went too far with the Brosnan era. This isn't actually so bad. But later on, I mean, it's just one-punch knockouts and everything he tries, he's the best in the fucking world at. And It got a bit obnoxious, actually. Particularly those stupid fucking faces he pulls.
Judo chop.
Dalton would have been great in this.
What, in the film as a whole?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. With this kind of was kind of like written with Dalton in mind, partly.
You will never get to the bottom of that, Chris, because they wrote various scripts for him, and then they had something which sort of became GoldenEye, but it got retailored and rewritten, and I don't really know. I don't know if he would have ever done a film that was exactly this. Possibly, they might have tailored it slightly differently because he's a slightly older actor than Brosnan. I don't know. I don't think Brosnan's that bad in it. It's just. I just find his eras
He's let down by his films.
It's just all suits and look how smart I am. It's watching a male model glide through the role, and he's got two expressions: the pain face and the fucking purse his lips and narrow his eyes, and that's it. And I just think and when you marry that to just being a character that's amazing at everything at all times, it comes off as sort of smug and a bit obnoxious.
It's quite far away from like Connery's Bond, for example. But that's what I find most compelling about it, because they all kind of bring their own. Like Brosnan does have this air of kind of like finesse.
I massively disagree. Brosnan brought nothing to the role at all. He's a remix of what came before. There is nothing unique in his portrayal in the slightest.
He's got a kind of air of class maybe that perhaps you wouldn't find elsewhere.
He's just a greatest hits Bond. That's all he is.
I think that's largely, to be fair on Brosnan, I think that's largely down to the production creative team.
I would say the same. It's down to his films.
He was given no meat to work with, but I can only comment on the end result. And the end result is just painfully thin now.
I think it's a very compelling Bond. Obviously, he's very charismatic, and they all bring something like...
I just don't. I'm watching this guy who is just basically wandering around like a male model and having no chemistry with anyone at all.
Yeah, there's some chemistry. I think
with who? Who's he got any chemistry with?
Xenia. I think got chemistry with.
He's got no chemistry with Xenia. He's in one scene with her, and that's a fight.
No, I really enjoyed that. I think that's.
He doesn't have any chemistry with anyone.
I disagree. I think
if you go and have a look at Dalton, who's seen as a much colder character, he's got chemistry with.
He has chemistry with all his girls.
Brosnan, Dalton did, yeah.
I feel the definite sense of rivalry between him and Trevelyan.
I mean, you put him with Terry Hatcher. He had some with Sophie Marceau, but you put him with like Halle Berry.
Unfortunately, I rewatched Dine of the Day recently, and I kind of reviewed my opinion. I do think he has very much chemistry with Jinx.
No, he doesn't have any at all. But for a guy who's quite funny and charismatic in real life, and when you go and watch him in The Tailor of Panama, and like the chemistry he's got with the people in that.
That's a good film.
Jamie Lee Curtis, I think it is. To see him so stiff, it's because he's too stiff. I think he's too nervous in the role. I don't know if it's that or not.
It's the first time kind of doing like Bond parody outside of Bond, isn't it? So
he doesn't generally have a lot of chemistry.
I think for this, it's probably, as you've said in your review, David, safety first. Everyone's like on, right.
Everyone's on edge and just a little bit like...
fuck this up, let's be...
No, let's not mess it all up.
Let's not take too many chances.
I'm feeling the chemistry here for sure. But that's
It's not.
Agree to disagree.
I'm not. It's not that I think he's bad. It's that I don't think he's bringing anything unique to the role, and he is bookended by two better Bonds. He just is. But the pair of them had fresh takes and
he brings his Irishness to the role.
Well, he brings his Irishness.
His Lucky Charms to the role.
He brings his Lucky
Charms to the
role. He brings his own experience to the role.
But yeah, that's the point. I think that what's ruined Pierce Brosnan's Bond is Daniel Craig, because it's led to a reappraisal.
What does he bring to the role?
What, do you really need me to spell out what Daniel Craig brings to the role?
No, I don't.
No, exactly. But Daniel Craig has led to a reappraisal of Dalton's period as well. So Dalton's period is now rated higher than it was when Brosnan was in the role. So now
License to Kill was hugely.
So he's this metrosexual fucking model in the middle of it. You had two actual proper actors either side of it.
I can't even speak now. There's an element of Bond where it is about the suits and it's about the clothes that he wears, and the cars that he drives, and the food that he eats, and the drinks that he drinks. And the cigarettes that he smokes, obviously
Not here.
now since he's not going to smoking again.
I think there's
an element there. It's all about the tailoring and how he looks in a particular scene, how he dresses, and how he conducts himself.
But there's nothing to that. When you take that away from Brosnan, there is nothing else.
I think he looks quite sharp. Obviously, it's very dated.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think what Brosnan brings, I think there is a generation who do really enjoy Brosnan. I did at the time. I loved him at the time, and I think that's what it is. It's just like fond memories of just like watching like a Bond film and just being entertained.
But the film also is more like humanity, like entertainment. There's more entertainment value, I would say. Whereas like Daniel Craig is kind of more like he is an instrument, but like there is kind of more of a human side to him as well.
I don't. What in Brosnan's Bond?
It's not as like comedic as more. For example, he hasn't got that hard edge as say compared to like Connery in his early films.
He doesn't really have anything, does he? The comedy's not there. The hardness ain't there.
It is there, but perhaps obviously in terms of
with different material and different directors, maybe he would have done something. He worked with John Boorman and put in a really great performance.
Oh, exactly. It's because of his films, definitely. But I'm entertained by, maybe not Die Another Day, but I'm entertained by his Bond films.
Yeah, they're aging like shit, though.
Like, for example, with Sophie Marceau, like, it's the scene where he kills her in cold blood. You wouldn't expect that of Brosnan's Bond. I found that quite difficult.
I think GoldenEye can start dropping down people's lists in the years to come.
Well, it's hugely dated. It's basically going the way of
Roger Moore. It's because a lot of it is the nostalgia of our generation and the sheen that was on it when it was new. So
no, it's very dated. The same thing will happen to Craig. It's happening to Roger Moore films now. The same thing will happen to Daniel Craig and the generation after him and after him after him. So
what I'm trying to say though is that if GoldenEye starts dropping away in reputation, he really will be fucked because his other three films are normally really low in everybody's rankings. He's the only Bond without a really great Bond film. I mean, Roger Moore is now actually sort of coming up in my estimation because, on average, his films are stronger than Brosnan's. They are.
He did do more of them.
Yeah, he did.
Do the most.
He did.
That's not really.
He's got two or three really great ones. Brosnan doesn't.
It's kind of just declined, but everyone's different. I'm sure there must be one person or two people out there who like really rate Die Another Day or. I'm convinced of it. I'm convinced.
There probably are, though.
There must be. I'm sure there must be. Take James Bond Radio, for example.
I know people who really rate Die Another Day. I've seen it at the top of a couple of rankings lists.
Definitely.
You like what you like, and if you love this, great. But all I'm saying is, of all the men who've played this role, he's actually coming off as the thinnest at the moment, not just physically. I mean, he's brought nothing to the role. There's nothing new in his take whatsoever, and because the films aren't very good, it's all faded.
So he's let down by his films.
He really is. I just think, what if they had taken someone like John Boorman to do this? Because I've seen Brosnan do it in other films. It's not like he can't act.
No, and especially the films like Hammerman, where he's played like an aging spy or an assassin or somebody coming out of
he's actually pretty good at World Weary, which obviously we weren't to know.
Now he's getting older, and also the TV series that he's done, like The Sun, for example, other westerns, like in other genres that he's explored, and obviously he's taken more of a back seat. It'd be quite interesting if maybe his own company had hand in the making of these films. It'd be very interesting to see Irish Dreamtime take on a Bond film, how he would handle himself that way, both behind and in front of the screen, the camera.
Hasn't he shown almost regret of not being played the role how he wanted it to be played?
That's the thing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of really prevented from doing that, I think.
It does undermine defending Brosnan somewhat, when he openly says himself, "I kind of fucked it up." He pretty much has. And they were I read it in the original, but I think it was Die Another Day when I read that. His quotes about himself. He can't watch himself. He just said there was no substance to it. There was no, he just said, part of it might have been my own insecurities in the role. He knows he's stuffed.
Well, he knows by that time he was on the way out, wasn't he? But then, a lot of actors don't watch themselves, whatever role they like. Johnny Depp doesn't watch himself. I know it's a bad example, but it's a common thing.
No, but he's not saying he can never watch himself. He's saying he can't watch himself as Bond because he didn't.
No, that particular film, definitely. But obviously, by that
he's
time,
saying he can't do it. He's not talking about Die Another Day.
No, as in the genre, in general.
He's saying he wasn't very good at it. Now, people are welcome to disagree, but the man himself thinks he wasn't.
No, it depends on which interview you read and that time, when it was said and things like that. But it's all taken within the sense.
Yeah, to be fair,
in context,
to be fair, Dave, that can be manipulated by public opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Be. I'm not saying it definitely is, but I'm just but I don't know. I think also part of that is down to creative control a little, most of the time.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Because he was pretty decent in the first 30 minutes of War's Not Enough, as we.
Yeah, I actually really like him in that. I mean, I'm coming off way more negative tonight than I really mean, and I think it's because I don't actually think he's very good in GoldenEye. I just think I left the cinema, I couldn't remember what he looked and sounded like because I've not seen him in much else, and I thought, well, I thought that guy's really made an impression on me. Then fucking James Bond, and half an hour later, I can't fucking remember.
Just a Bond-shaped figure.
Yeah, that was the
just a shadow.
I think I described him in one of the original reviews as diminished in the suit. By next week, he's a bit more relaxed. And by the world is not enough, he's not bad at all. So I am being overly harsh.
It takes him a while to grow in the role, doesn't it? I mean, as with any actor.
I still stand by the fact that he didn't bring anything original to the role at all. He didn't have a take. I think he was more interested in getting Bond without actually knowing what he wanted to do with it.
It's more action heavy, and I think had we not maybe had Brosnan, or obviously Dalton for sure, but had we not had Brosnan, then perhaps we may not have had Daniel Craig. We might have got a more softly approach. But obviously because, the 90s, lots of, late 80s, early 90s, was a wealth of action films coming out. We thought, okay, this is the road it's going to take.
The biggest thing I think that got Daniel Craig the role was Layer Cake.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
I think Barbara saw that and saw there's my younger agent.
Definitely.
So I think
very
he met
charismatic.
that anyway. Brosnan was all right for what these films needed to be, and he actually brought the series back and very safety first. And he is a safety first Bond because he kind of resembles one Juno, and there's nothing about his portrayal that's distinctive enough to be particularly offensive. So it's he's kind of all right, but
very cool. He's very
like
smart.
I say, Daniel Craig has utterly fucking ruined these films.
He's more of a
Daniel
man.
Craig.
More of a ladies' man. Whereas Daniel Craig, he's known for being more of
yeah,
a
but then he also makes films like Spectre, and you just think that's what a fucking waste.
That was just a complete waste of everyone's talent.
Yeah.
But anyway, being paid $25 million for the next Bond film, bloody hell!
It is a really inventive gadget with a belt that's a grappling hook.
Yeah. Grappling hook.
That a 10-year-old would have come up
Grappling
with.
hook activate.
What if he can swing on his belt and then a bigger man falls out the window?
I mean, I'm not being funny. This is the kind of shit I'd picture in my head if I would have made my own Bond films when I was 12. I'd be it's the same kind of thing.
I love this tank chase. You can totally pull it off. I can't see Roger doing it. I can maybe see Sean doing it. I can see Tim doing it.
Well, it's too much
Daniel
running
definitely.
around.
Well, they all do
the whole tank chase sequence.
They all do similar fucking stunts and bits.
I think it's fabulous.
But...
I do love it.
Yeah, to be fair.
Yeah, we see this film so differently because I don't like the tank chase either because it takes no wit or invention. He just fucking drives through everything.
To be fair,
exactly.
You can't see. I can't really imagine. Well, maybe Daniel Craig doing it now, but
it's similar to that scene in Casino.
Dalton.
And the continuity shit because his head is in and out. And look at the continuity on whether his head is in it.
It's edited quite badly as well.
I've never liked
and the
it.
pacing is right off, but it's fun.
So apart from it being not very inventive, poorly edited, terrible continuity, it's really great.
That's the thing. You just got to go with it, haven't you? Got to spend your disbelief. You just got to go with it. Enjoy the ride.
Disbelief's not the problem. I just
have a good fun.
Have a good set piece. Also, it's got one of the worst bits of product placement coming up in the entire series.
Very also.
Because it's just lazy. It's just just stick that there.
But surely Skyfall.
Which bit?
Worst product placement.
Which bit?
Or the first half.
But I don't know which
BW
bit
Beatles.
Yeah. Okay.
Heineken.
That takes a
Heineken,
second.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but Heineken wasn't.
It's Amigo, obviously.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. Heineken wasn't even poor product placement because he was holding a bottle of
it's
it.
so blatant. I mean, we've
But it
discussed this
wasn't.
when we
That's
reviewed
exactly
the
the
film.
point. If you're going to put a product in a film like Heineken, the way they handled it was perfect. Whereas driving into
I
a van
think what
full
didn't
of
help
fucking
is you had,
Perrier
like...
is stupid.
I think what didn't help is you had all the Heineken ads, like...
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
Yeah,
bit
but
funny.
in the film itself, he had a bottle when he was laying on the bed, and you could barely even see the label. So they
No, the
did.
label's front and centre.
It isn't. Watch it again. The
No,
label's-
It is.
It isn't when he's drinking it. You can clearly
It's
tell it's
not.
Heineken, but the
Oh no, like when
label
he's at the
isn't.
bar. When he's at the bar, yeah. But like when he's obviously on the bed, it's literally let me drink this bottle of
yeah, you
Heineken.
can see they're selling it there. He's drinking Heineken on the bed, and you can't see the label.
Oh
at
no,
all.
not on the bed, no. But like
And
when he's at the bar.
later, Q and Tanner are drinking it, and again, it's not that blatant. You know what you're looking for. It's there. But had I not known about that product placement deal, I don't reckon I'd even notice. Whereas driving, you cannot compare that to driving into a fucking great load of like
Perrier.
bottles.
I was trying to think of other examples, really.
Speaking of Craig, the bit where Brosnan looked like sort of tightens his tie in this is pretty much the same thing. Like everyone just themselves with Craig did in Skyfall about the cuffs.
Yeah.
Everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's great
cheeks his cuff.
how he does that." I was
Look
like,
how Bondian it is.
I thought, well,
Well, it's typical
Brosnan
sort of thing,
did it
isn't it? He
twice
just
in
causes
his
like massive
films.
stuff, causing a lot of chaos, a lot of destruction. And then, I'll just shoot my cuffs or straighten my tie,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
smoke
but
this cigarette,
but
or
it's just how people react at the time. Just out of that little thing, and I thought, oh my god, it's just a wonderful thing, just because the
it's like a little moment.
yeah, just because the previous two films Craig hadn't done it. Well, Brosnan did it at least twice. Probably did it.
There's a bit box checking going on as well. Oh, look how busy it is now. It looks a bit busier than it did earlier. Rush hour.
I think one of the main problems in this film, I think, if I was structurally is, Bond has had zero time with the lead woman, and is supposed to have this almost like it's almost as like at this point she should really sort of understand him to a degree, because she's always oh, here he comes.
Yeah.
And
those cans are
and they
empty.
literally just had an argument in a prison cell, and that's pretty much their interactions.
Yeah, but then later on, when they get to the beach, she's got him sewn up like that.
I guess
No,
I think this is my problem with this scene.
Yeah, exactly.
If you remember, I really hated the fencing scene in Die Another Day, because I just thought, in universe, a skilled agent putting the public in that much danger was fucking mental.
Mm-hmm.
This is too. This is my problem here. This is just fucking mental. I don't
That's why
like
it's so
it.
great.
It's why it's so shit.
I think it's brilliant. But again, it is dangerous. You are going to kill people. It's
Yeah,
like,
but
oh my God.
he doesn't just wantonly fucking kill the general public. This is mental. It's got to have some.
It's like in Casino Royale as well, isn't it? It's the
Yeah, but it's
same.
got to have some internal fucking logic and consistency, and they've just shat on it there.
That's good fun.
And
And same with the train scene as well.
It's movie logic in it. It's fine.
But yeah, there's movie logic and then there's real world logic, and the
It's got to
two
have some internal
rarely come
consistency.
together.
Bond shouldn't be putting the general public in danger like that. He just shouldn't.
Basically, most of the films he does. And it's like-
At least
That's
Roger Moore
great.
went, move!
yeah, literally. But, ooh.
And he just
not
casually
not
creeps
to
in
that
with a
degree.
tank.
He was just barreling over everything. That was fucking madness. I hate
You could argue that. Brosnan has obviously the highest. I think he has the highest body count of all his films, doesn't it?
And actually, I thought that was Tomorrow Never Dies, but I
you
actually
could argue
highest
that Craig is also more reckless,
you'd be wrong.
which tells you to move. Oh.
I like this set. I quite like that set. It's nice.
Or he's more like the gentlemanly one. This is Neil Can't even speak now. Neen Valley Railway again.
Did they still think he was a gentleman when he gave everyone crabs?
No. You're like, no, you're not a gentleman. Yeah, this scene I find a bit annoying from John Beam, but otherwise
I would.
he's like silky villain.
But he's just petulant. It was like,
I just hate
it tastes like strawberries. I wouldn't know. I would.
Fuck
You, Bond. That's the point. You just sort of think, he's really slimy, he's really sleazy. you know.
But I don't think he's meant to be. He was still playing that characterization when he was a fucking agent, though. It's just crap.
And they haven't established why Oromov's dead scared of him.
Yeah, that's one thing I do have struggled with a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, Dave is right to a degree. Once you dissect this film, it just falls apart.
Falls apart instantly. It's not.
Generally, when you dislike any film, it tends to fall apart. But
it doesn't. That's the point. It doesn't.
No, like any of the Bond films, really, because some of them don't hold up better. Some better than others.
There are always gaps and logics and problems.
Oh, exactly. Wherever you tell.
But we've already gone through it. We got to the Q scene in the wrong place. We got to the M scene in the wrong place. It's just really annoying to see so much praise for a film that's just a pretty shell with a pile of shit inside it.
I mean,
then Spy Love Me, for example, is loved by a generation. And that's just like a film of two halves, very much falls apart.
I don't like the Spy Love Me.
The second half. So, exactly, there we are. But yeah, it's loved by a generation.
Yeah, that's great. I get it, but that's a better
Same goes for Goldfinger as well. It's loved by a generation. And Bond does anything, gets captured, and spends half the film.
Goldfinger's a better film than this.
It's just one of those films that, it's a different time, and when you look into it, actually does. Bond has fuck all agency.
But it's a better film than this.
And it's just, they're very much product of its time as well. There's a fantasy element as well that you kind of really do need to place at the forefront.
I agree.
They're getting more
structuring a film badly, making none of it make sense, and going, well, it's just Bond and it's fantasy, is like, well, no, just write a proper fucking script.
The thing is, there could be two truths. This can be like a firm fan favourite and everyone enjoys it.
And I see.
And it can still be.
I'm not saying it's perfect.
No. But it still can be. It can still fall apart. Like the moment you start picking at it.
Exactly. Like Spectre, like Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Oh no, not Casino Royale.
Casino Royale. Casino Royale's perfect, but
no, the 67 version.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That just falls apart generally.
Well, that's just a fucking mess.
Casino Royale was a very good.
It had the cohesive. It had the cohesive vision of 5 different people that didn't know each other.
Exactly.
When I think of Bond, I think of Woody Allen.
Let's yeah. Don't want to run amok.
Why is that just such young girls?
And Peter Sellers. Oh, excuse me.
It's kind of an ill-fitting suit, really, for Sean Bean.
Yeah, he doesn't look very stylish.
Let's just look at the expressions he's pulling there. I just think he's all wrong for this. The character idea is pretty good. I think Sean Bean is the problem, not the character.
Well, they originally wanted Anthony Hopkins, didn't they?
They did.
That would have taken a slight rewrite in some respects.
It would have been tasty.
I would, almost anything rather than Sean Bean. I think he physically kind of looks right, but he's really bad in it.
I think, as you said earlier, it's the whole accent thing, isn't it? So
I think it's the accent, it's the facial expressions as well.
But if it was, say, Anthony Hopkins would have been like older cap, that would have worked so much better. Like it would have been more. It would have been more of a mentor figure who. Yeah,
definitely.
It would have matched age, the timeline of where we are now to. At the time, it just seems like a bit of a. Like it doesn't make sense. But I think we've established that.
Yeah, I'm just going to go around in circles, so...
Oh, well, let's just enjoy old Scarface here. Two targets, no time for one shot. Girl or the mission.
Yeah.
Well, she generally does, only just fucking met her. I think that's probably a large problem with the film. There's no emotional.
It's personal now.
There's and you just kill basically what we led to believe as the main characters. If it was just a random henchman.
Yeah. I don't have the talent to write something like GoldenEye, but I'm damn sure I could rewrite it if you know what I mean.
Could, Dave. I think you probably could. You guys between you, you could probably write a film script.
I think I could fix this film.
How would you fix it?
I don't.
Or dare I ask?
In general, I don't think people need it. I've said some of it on the review. But I think the whole Urumov thing is the wrong way round. And I would have had Urumov as more of a sort of M analog almost. And Alec as a sort of... It would have almost been a shadow version of MI6
What?
in its way.
You're breaking up there, Dave, sorry.
Sorry about that. I don't know why I'm saying sorry. It's not my fault. It's breaking up. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have the talent to write something like this. So
I think you do. I think you probably would.
Not from scratch. I couldn't. But
no, I think you guys, you've got enough knowledge and talent to do it.
As we go through it, I know what I think is wrong with this film. If you know what I mean. Obviously,
you guys write a Bond film. I think you would come up with a pretty damn fine Bond film.
In public consciousness, I think it doesn't need fixing. It's generally quite beloved, this film. So
I'm guilty of it as well, kind of viewing it through rose-tinted spectacles.
Yeah. But you can only say what you see, and as I'm watching it, I'm just going, well, that's not very good, and that doesn't make sense, and Christ, I used to like this.
Maybe we should write a Bond script, Dave.
I think you should, definitely. I know the JBL, I've been talking about it as a rumblings. But then you've got all the generations.
Christ, can you imagine that? Imagine we put a script out, and Eon will be, fucking hell, you must be really tired. Take 5 years off.
Without sounding...
Yeah, I reckon you guys could do it.
Without sounding disrespectful to the James Bond radio guys, I imagine if they wrote a script, it would be shit. And I say that with full respect, because...
Yeah, it sounded respectful.
Well, it's not... The problem is, you can't...
They're too close to it. They're too in love with the series.
Yeah,
That's
they'll just be like fanning... I could be wrong, they'll just be like, for lack of a better word, fangirling it. They'll just be like, oh my god, like that'd be amazing, and then that'd be great, and then what you have would just be...
Like if they were to do it, it would just literally need to be Tom and
by
Chris,
the numbers, really boring film with no substance. That's what you end up with.
I don't know why Chris suddenly decided to slack off James Bond radio there.
No, but I like, I'm not slagging their podcast off. Well, at least not now. But
yeah, not on air. Fucking hell.
No, but just in this, as you said, they're too close. They'll be too at least me and you, Dave. And I'm not saying we make a brilliant Bond film. But
I reckon you would.
But at least we'd have some awareness. No, that's shit, or no, that's not interesting. They'll be like, no, or as you say, you'd be willing to try something different.
Definitely.
So there would be.
That's why I think you would have the edge.
We would, yeah. So if
and Bono, let's see what they can produce a second time.
So hypothetically, if guys from JBR, if they wrote a script, and me and Dave, we wrote a script, I reckon our script would be better.
Neither would be... No, but
yeah, our script would be better, but neither would actually get anywhere.
It would get made.
No. In reality, yeah.
Very much fun films.
Yeah,
that'll be good fun,
in front of the producers and they say, we'll like it, but can you put a load of quickly looks on the internet to find out what's popular at the moment in it?
Yeah, put a load of whatever the what's it called?
I just think that speaks to just a lack of general creativity. I do
like their scene recreations though.
Quick question: do you really think there should be some element of moving with the times, in the sense of let's talk about what's happening now in the world?
I've got mixed feelings on it. I think the problem is it causes paralysis. Because they get to a point where they need to write a Bond script and they're like, what's going on in the world now? And I just think it slows down the sort of production line a bit. And when you look back, take on Her Majesty's Secret Service, there are references to foot and mouth in that, because there was a foot and mouth outbreak the year before that film. But there's nothing about that film that I love because it speaks to the late 60s particularly. And I think that's true of most Bond films, that you'll pick up a reference from the time, like Skyfall with the missing disc and everything. But it ends up in the whole run of things to be a bit inconsequential. Yeah, and you end up feeling...
Golden Gun, with the energy crisis that was going on in the mid-70s.
Precisely. That's aged really badly. And I just think... I don't know what it gives us, because you end up feeling like you're being fucking lectured anyway. Like Skyfall was I quite like Skyfall, but Mallory lecturing him on accountability and all that kind of shit. It's, I don't know.
Being transparent. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, being told like this mass hacker who basically does next to no hackering.
Yeah, no hacking.
All he does is check the records of the guy who's gone to investigate it.
He's got hackers to do it for him.
I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on it. But logically, when I look back historically, it's never been the contemporary parts of each film that make them good or bad. But I think also,
I think you have to move with technology, haven't you?
I'm just getting sick of the fucking gaps and anything that is going to stop them going into fucking paroxysms of self-doubt and self-analysis for fucking 3 years or 4 years every time would be rather welcome. So if you just stored up scripts with no fucking reference to the real world or no reference to contemporary events anyway, and then just gave those scripts a polish to update them or whatever when you're ready to use them, then I'd kind of be happy with that. I'm just getting so sick of this now because it's putting pressure on each Bond film as well, because the next one's either got to be amazing or it's going to be a massive letdown after such a
There's
wait.
always so much pressure to be bigger and better than the last one.
Which they've got to quit because Casino Royale was a smaller
Focusing again
film.
on the film, that was a very beautiful shot just there.
It was.
Looking over the
What when
beach.
you saw him in?
What of a crotch.
No. As lovely though she is, and as handsome though Bros is, the scene along the beach is shot very beautifully.
Yeah. Do you know
Cinematography in this film is
It's
gorgeous.
the film I was talking about. It was From Dusk Till Dawn, wasn't it? Where I said things to do in Denver where you're dead. When I went with that friend, he went, oh, when he saw go. Well, he was sat next to me when we saw this film as well, and he didn't make quite the same noise, but he just went, ooh. When he saw that sort of minging shot thing.
Squeaky.
It's finished now.
You down in one.
Well, no.
Yeah. He's worked it off with his half a press up. You're all right.
See, Chris, you only said you did half a press up.
He
didn't
didn't say that. I did. He didn't literally.
No, I can imagine, for example, he'd got to, I don't know, 300 or something, and he literally went to do 301 and was like, oh. So it could have been, a really high rep.
Yeah.
Because he only did one or half of one.
Yeah, had had a load of weights just tied on my back as well, just to give it that extra.
Rocky style training montage.
Done, mate. Oh, finished.
Or like Homer Simpson, where you're fighting Mo.
Her hair's a bit tousled, and his is perfect. I'm telling you, he does not exert himself in the bedroom. He just puts the tip in, and they go wild.
He's got perfect hair.
Yeah.
Do you think she goes on top? That's how Brosnan does it.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think after being smushed by Xenia.
No one messes with the do.
Mm.
Oh, now he'd be pissed because he's ruined the quaff.
Yeah. That's why he stops dating her at the end of the film. For appearance sake, you'll see it through to the end of the mission, but after that he's like, you fucked my hair up in Cuba.
You're dumped.
And then obviously he fucks Terry Hatcher. She doesn't touch his hair at all, clearly, because it's perfect in bed in the morning. You can see why she was more his speed.
And plus it's more of a brief one in Tomorrow Never Dies, so. It's quite sweaty.
Do you still get bouffants now?
No, it looks a lot bigger, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm sure they're commercially available, Chris, if you want to get one.
If you wish to buy before.
I'm imagining Chris turning up at a late night barber's at 11:30, hammered on whiskey.
Basically, I want this,
I've been talking
but
to my
bigger.
friends. I want a fucking bouffant.
Bouffant burn.
He takes in a picture of Timothy Dalton. Hey, I want that.
Chris Bouffant burn.
This is Timothy Dalton. I want hair like that. This is him just before he drank a wanked off, not fingered. I think Chris might be kicked out of the barbers at that point.
I can't do this. I'll do it.
Unless they're listeners, of course.
I like also Becca made my local barbers Russian. I cannot do this. What is this? What is that bouffant? I don't know.
No, they sound French.
Yeah. No, they're just Euro trash.
I was about to say they work for Spectre, but if they're French, they work for Le Spectre.
Le Spectre. If they're French, they should know what a bouffant is.
Now, she should be dead looking at that shot.
Yeah, they couldn't have
You can
survived.
imagine him writing it down, handing it
Just
to them,
like
going,
just a bit of
Miracle,
glasses
they-
embedded in her forehead.
French barber looking at it going, bouffant? Oh shit, it's in English.
Je ne sais pas. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça?
Oh, if only she was dead, he's thinking.
Oh my god.
He's just come, because she
That's
looks
what
so...
that's what Brosnan brings to the role
That's why
of
he needs to
necrophilia.
get now. He's knackered himself coming because he thought she looked so much like a corpse.
Poor Bros.
I've just thought that probably won't play too well out of context if I put it in the trailer.
Don't add that, please.
No, probably not.
I say go
Biting,
for
that's
it.
what he brings to the role as well. He's bitey.
He's a bit fighty.
Look at this. It's such an obvious set. Obviously not that shot, but this. He just stood there and watched, didn't he?
Doing the splits.
Stay here, I'm going to get kicked in the face. I'm sure I'm going to get kicked in the face, you know. Oh shit, yeah, I'm being kicked in the face.
Yeah, it was a bit poorly edited, that scene.
She's really only got one trick.
It's,
It's motion.
You don't have to kill him that way, you know.
It's almost as if she's like a gimmick.
Look at that pain face.
What's the whole point?
Yeah.
She just really gets off on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the thing, though.
It's like
Yeah.
tradition of female Bond
Well,
villains. Yeah.
she does get sexual arousal by murdering people.
That scene was edited out in cinema releases.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Did
Thing
we
is,
see
though,
it? I think we saw it on the with the Bond marathon that we did last year, beginning of last year.
the Bond marathon we did 3 years to 2 years ago.
No, sorry, no, the one that I did. Sorry.
Oh, right. Oh, you mean the 6 films? Yeah.
Yeah, not the great big one that you managed to do. Well done. But yeah, I think we barely survived 6 films. So
Yeah.
I think when was it? Was it 2012 when they did all the it was when Sky Movies got the contract to show them all.
Right.
I think was it the Odeon? I think it might have been the Odeon. Leicester Square literally screened all of them back to back, and I admire anybody who did that because we really struggled just to get through.
That's not going to be good for you.
I'm
That's
just casually looking at the staff, and there's like literally just people who could be someone's aunt or something. They're just like, how are these people hired to work for like an evil megalomaniac?
Her attempts.
Per attempt, yeah, temping agency.
So
Because to be fair, the film's only 2 hours long. So the film's only 2 hours long, so it's quite a short contract.
Yeah, they didn't get paid.
They
by the
probably
minute.
only turn up around the hour mark. So 40 minutes work, you're going to struggle to staff that.
And in between that, they're just arbitrarily turning knobs. We're like henchmen, Inc.
They're just like most of them just look like not the usual people you'd find working for someone who
They
wants to
should
take
all
over
have
the world.
scars down. They should all have greasy hair and scars down their faces.
Exactly.
And be going, whoa, at
For
all
$1
times.
million.
Look at that, that's a miniature.
That's quite obviously a miniature.
Evidently, you couldn't build the whole thing, but it does look like a miniature. The water going down there. Derek Medding's last film.
It was, yeah.
We are not knocking the work of Derek Meddings. His work's terrific.
No.
It's just there's budgetary issues there, and they're using miniatures for a few things where perhaps you wouldn't normally. And they just don't have the money.
CGI is quite poor there, but never mind. This is clearly shot in reverse.
See, I don't mind miniature, even if I can tell it's a miniature. I can.
The frame rate is not the frame rate on things like water are normally the clue because they've got to slow it down. So they run the camera faster, basically.
I do like the use of actual miniatures or miniatures compared to CGI. I'm just a big fan of in-camera effects generally.
No, I understand that, but
I love CGI as well.
We're now at the point where CG looks better, but we're only really just at the point where CG.
But yeah, coming into it here. So.
But I mean, miniatures are great. It's just, they used an awful lot of like what they call bigatures in like the Lord of the Rings films, and they look really terrific. So I don't have a problem with them. But all I'm saying is that relative to the rest of the Brosnan era, you can tell the budget's lower here. That's all. The rest of the Brosnan era, they threw money at it.
It doesn't. They don't have a day. Oh my god.
I figured out what would make this film better.
Full frontal nudity in my opinion.
Just that as well maybe, but recast
Roger
Roger Moore.
It wouldn't make it worse, would it?
Roger Moore, yes, it would.
Roger Moore at the time, just like
what 60?
Roger.
What was he at the time?
So who's the next James Bond? Roger Moore again? What?
65.
Too fucking.
He did visit the set, didn't he? He did visit the set. There are photos of him on.
You know what would make this film better? Timothy Dalton.
Well, that Tim makes anything go better, really.
Lord Tim. I can see why they recast. I was on a Politiflix the other night talking about that very thing because we were talking about this.
That's very interesting.
Have you heard it? They were talking about the. We were talking about the rumor or Timothy saying that he was offered a film after he was offered the chance to come back after the break, and we talked about that and how plausible we thought that was, and all that kind of thing. And I was saying in the midst of all that I may love him in the role, but the public really didn't. And when you look at what License to Kill took and what this took, only 6 years apart, long time in Bond history sense, but not that long in the whole scheme of things. You can see why they recast. You really can. So this film wouldn't have taken as much money with Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, it was weird because at the time when this came out, it felt like they stopped making Bond films. Like that was going to be it. So
yeah, it did.
By the time GoldenEye came out, it almost felt like a reboot, like a rebranding. Yeah. So it felt like it just would have been a bit weird. It would have been like maybe not weird. It would have been like, we'll carry it on then. Mm. But
I also made the point that Dalton was unfortunate as well in that his films were done by John Glenn, and I don't mean that as an insult to John Glenn. I mean that it ties him in visual style and everything to the Roger Moore era. Mm. So when you're bringing in new director, new cinematographer, Daniel Kleinman, we cannot underestimate that as well, how different it all was going to look when it came back. You can see that you might go the whole hog and change the leading man as well. Timothy Dalton was part of the old world, But the other thing was he only wanted... I tend to think, like I said, I think all versions of the story are true. I think it is true the studio didn't want him, but I think it's definitely clear Cubby did. But Cubby understood he couldn't sell him on the basis of one. And that's what Tim wanted to do. He wanted to come back and do one film.
Rather than doing like 5.
Yeah, well, I think 5 might have been pushing it, but like... It wouldn't have been unfeasible to do 3 if they were all 2 years apart.
That's just it. You can't take that long and want to carry on the franchise ban and then and then change again.
Yeah, we're going to refresh it and build. Yeah, you got to build a strategy and you got to build.
You might as well just start from scratch from the go.
Yeah, no, I agree. So in some respects, as much as it pains me to say it, the recast makes sense. Timothy Dalton, depending on what year you believe he was born, because they keep going back and forth on whether it was 44 or 46. If we were generous and say it was 46, he would have been 49 when this came out. So had he said, I'll do 3, and Cubby wanted 4 or 5, he just seemed to be fucking blind on aging, because he would have been 49, 51 and 53 on those 3 films had he done them. And I think you can probably just to get away with that, particularly Timothy Dalton. He's not a pretty boy anyway. But yeah, Cubby wanted him to sign up for 4 or 5, which puts him into like Roger Moore territory again.
You just saw like cash signs, didn't you? Ka-ching, ka-ching.
I think it's.
He didn't look that bad though, did he?
He aged very well. He aged better than Brosnan aged because Brosnan's got more delicate, sort of prettified features. He was quite rugged, Dalton. But even so, they should have learnt from the first time that you don't cast Bond at 57, 58 years of age. It's getting too late. But yeah, maybe he could have done 2 or 3. I don't know. But Tim didn't want to. He wanted to come back and do 1, which is kind of naive in its way.
To be fair, it might have been his polite out.
Well, he does a whole interview on it. I can't remember who was interviewing him, but he said that he was going to obviously do a 3rd originally before the gap, and then there was a gap, and he stopped wanting to. And he said as it came sort of back to sort of early '94, and the sort of machinery was all cranking up again, he sort of had a rethink and went, no, actually, I would like to do 1. Take the sort of best bits of what I did in the first 2 and really sort of do my definitive statement. And he went to Cubby Broccoli with it, and Cubby said, well, no, we got to position you for 4 or 5. Cubby rang him and asked, and he said no. And then he contacted Cubby and said, I've had a change of heart. But he only wanted to do 1. And Cubby knew you couldn't go to a hostile studio and sell 1. Thing is, I love Timothy Dalton as James Bond. He's one of my favourites, but were I running a studio after Licence to Kill and had that 6-year gap, I'd recast as well. And I never would have cast Alan Cumming. Not in this. He belongs in a different film. I don't know what film he belongs in, but he doesn't belong in this one.
X-Men.
This isn't goofy enough. This isn't quite goofy enough for a Boris character.
They'll probably try.
It is a bit weird, isn't it? Because you've got kind of like it's like the scientist in like Thunderbolt or dare I say it, Die Another Day. Just sort of kooky scientist.
Yeah.
Psychic, really.
It's not. It doesn't really ruin the film. I'm not.
I think
I don't.
Then he was
want
kind
to
of known
discuss
for more of his comedy roles.
Yeah.
But I think Boris is classic henchman type character. I'm invincible. So
there's a weird. He's just got a odd quality about him because he is this kind of really weird, kind of kooky, geeky guy.
He's like kind of like your 90s typical like 90s wired sort of hacker, really.
There's a really insecure, weak sensibility about him, but with a nasty edge. Which, when I think about it, I kind of like that in a character, but, well, as a villain anyway. A side villain.
I could sort of see what they're going for.
But I think this is like them trying to figure out, like, the new take or the new angles to go for.
Yeah, absolutely. This film was, like, super successful, so, it worked.
Yeah, I think it's put mainly like an appetite. Oh, Bond's back, great.
They did some very wise things, though. I mean, I think I'm right in saying Maurice Binder had died, but they didn't bring it back with that fucking Sun Bingo late Maurice fucking Binder era style. Because his later ones, they were getting worse. I mean, Licence to Kill isn't too bad, but like The Living Daylights and A View to a Killer both have horrible title sequences. Octopussies ain't good either. And I just thought, like, if they brought it back with that and maybe done, I think it had to look a little different when it came back.
Almost like it's grown up to an extent.
Yes.
Give me the code, Italia.
Do you think Brosnan was managing to keep count there, or do you think it was just, I'm not going to get another chance, I'll just gamble on it? Because I would have loved it if they all dived to the floor and fuck all happened, and it's like, oh, sorry about that.
Possibly. maybe a calculated guess, like a calculated, like, all right, there's a good chance, yes, but if I'm wrong, fuck it, because what else am I gonna do? And just people falling around. How's that guy not heard any of all that shit's going on downstairs?
Yeah, it's definitely.
Oh, well, son, she's a gun expert.
I've always found something inherently almost a bit sexist when they do that. Like, look what the little lady can do.
But it's just like, okay, but at what point in the film have we established that she's used a gun?
Never. It was just a moment of she can take care of herself. I mean, when it pissed me off when Leia Seydoux did it, but at least it actually narratively made sense. Her father being a fucking assassin, and there probably being weapons in the home, and paranoia about who might be after him, so he teaches all the family to at least defend themselves. I for all the problems of Spectre, that made some sense, but it didn't there. These space effects are starting to date now, but I have to admit they look pretty decent at the time. GoldenEye in space looked alright at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think even when it's aged, there's almost like
there's a charm to it.
Yeah, you know, like you think of, like, say something like what's that comedy one? You know, the Twice. And it's like there's just it just takes you back to, like, then. Think, all right.
Yeah, no, I get it. Altogether, far too many. See, had it just been this film and the rest of the era had been different, then that might have been a different matter, because the Lazenby film had this, but there's too many machine guns in this film. So he's just as I'm saying that, he's gone back to a hand pistol, but they did start off with them. I don't know why I said a hand pistol, although there's like a foot pistol you could get.
A two-hand pistol.
It's got quite a nice mechanism. I could shoot him with my little toe. Yeah. A hand pistol. Yes, alright. I think I was caught between handgun and pistol.
It's pretty much the same thing we're talking about, isn't it?
A hand pistol. But I just realised that I said it with total confidence, like I knew what I was talking about. I don't fuck all about guns. But yeah, there are too many, like, machine guns in his films, I'd say.
But, shoot 'em up Bond.
But I don't want to say we must never have them, because every time I think that, because I'd rather not have them, every time I think that, I'm reminded of, like, Lazenby having them, and I've got no complaints with that film at all.
Well, I think you've got to have some... It depends on what the script calls for at that time, isn't it? When you think, like, well, come on, they would have... These guards would have machine guns. Then you think, right, well, naturally, Bob will take some out and then grab a machine gun himself, and there you go. But if you're saying they're there for the sake of it, well, the same as anything, you wouldn't throw in anything for the sake of it. It's just what calls for.
It's another thing that doesn't date the era very well, because it speaks to an insecurity of trying to keep up with action cinema of the 90s.
Oh, I see.
I think that's part of it. Like, as I say, I always get caught up in this with GoldenEye, that I pick a load of fault, and then actually for everything I said, I quite like it. I really do, and that never comes across, because in the details, I'm always picking on it. I really am, but you can't underestimate the success of this. You can't underestimate the importance of this film. This film had to fucking work. It just absolutely had to. And all the sort of new design. I mean, I prefer the classic office, I do. But the new M's office and stuff was quite nice. And they actually refreshed everything quite nicely. But when I look back on it, I am just a little bit like, yeah, I wish there hadn't been as much in the way of machine guns and stuff. That's not GoldenEye particularly, because that was really only a couple of sequences. But certainly through his era, he was using a lot.
I think in his next film, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably that film that most makes me think like that, actually.
I think a lot of it is down to how flippant and casual it is with it. and it's not, and that's not like a dig at that kind of it's as those kind of action scenes. It's just how like.
Well, at the end
in Tomorrow Never Die. No, sorry, not The World's Not Enough. She got bad guys and they're like firing machine guns out of the base, and they're literally just like a flappy kind of emotion.
Well, there's a bit, it's something very similar towards the end of Tomorrow Never Dies when he's on the boat. And he's firing it in various different directions, and then he points it up a bit and just has another couple of little sprays with it, and it reminds me of people spraying like fly spray and that sort of thing, like Raid, where you just go, "Oh, just put a little bit more there and a bit there." It's really strange.
Yeah, I think they kind of think, "Oh well, John Woo movies are pretty cool at the moment.
Yeah,
let's do that kind of style," But the problem is there was no proper physicality to it. It was just a bit like, well, we don't want to be too hard, so we'll just do everything a little bit soft around the edges. But you can still have that while have the
But I'm still, for everything, I'd have been so happy if I'd been Pierce Brosnan at sort of Christmas this year, to December '95. I mean. How happy must he have been that this film came out and everyone liked it, and then it did really well, and no one was sure about that, and it was a role he never thought he'd get back. Plus, around then, I think he was newly married as well. So, I feel really good for Pierce Brosnan here. I may not be the biggest fan of his Bond, but I'm glad he got to play the role after everything he went through. That is,
No, for me.
I think we might be out of sync because I was commenting on him hitting the ground.
Quite an iconic scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably a bit. I was like,
yeah, it's quite a grim death.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I'm not too sure. What do you think of like the whole personal angle?
It's been overdone. I would have no problem with it, but I think I said in one of the reviews, we're now at the point where if Bond just goes and does a standard mission, chasing some villain he doesn't know and is nothing to do with him, and doesn't have shades of Bond's youth, plus he doesn't go against them and go rogue, we'd be thinking, what a fresh take on character. You know what I mean?
That's the only thing, but like with the majority of the Bond films, it's always like a personal vendetta. And it's just like, oh, really? That's been done to death.
It never used to be, though, did it? It's something that sort of...
I think it kind of happened maybe...
It's happened recently. I mean, like...
Yeah, it's very recent. You
had Blofeld in Majesties, but that never really came to proper fruition. And again, that was like once in a complete...
Yeah, and the one time you would expect it, and they didn't do anything with it anyway.
Plus, it built over a series of films. It wasn't like one film thing kind of deal. There was a natural investment involved in that. You kind of
Man with the Golden Gun was shaping up that way till we learned actually it wasn't Scaramanga who sent the bullet anyway. I'm really struggling to think of many personal ones before we get to. I mean,
it's just like some of the
License to Kill was personal because he hurt his mate and killed his mate's wife.
Yeah, but that's kind of from a passive kind of way because it wasn't like directly someone from his past. That was more of like that was an emotional thing. It was like,
but it was the first time where it was like he's gone rogue and it's personal now.
Yeah.
And then I don't think there was much of it in the Brosnan era. You could argue a bit Die Another Day, sort of. In a strange kind of way, with the whole
you
move.
Burned me.
And now you want my help!
What the hell do?
Honestly, we got to stop doing that because
I
cannot get any more Welsh.
Can you imagine
I've got nowhere to go with this.
Can you imagine Die Another Day but with Dalton?
I stayed on his face. He went through this thing. Yeah, it's the Craig era. This is coming. Really, it's the last three films. But it's now got to the point where it's like, right, can we have him do the mission he's given, and that's it, please?
Things we're not going to get it, are we? Because
No. But the thing is, I wouldn't necessarily want that every time either, because eventually, like I say, you end up with Tomorrow Never Dies every other year. In some respect, I want a Bond film every other year. and I do want more, but you got to mix it up now and again. But like, there should be like one personal mission in an actor's run, not like every fucking one in their run.
Yeah, I think it just my main problem is they just feel weak. Like, like this one didn't feel properly. I mean, it was okay at the time, but
this one was promising. I think because it's still the best Brosnan film, effectively, whatever shades of opinion they are, most people believe it to be. I think, and because of the nostalgia and everything else, I think people rate it higher than it is, but I think it's also relative to what came afterwards. Whereas I think in December 95, just after you'd seen it, I think you'd more be thinking, this is promising, better will come. But obviously better never did come, so now GoldenEye's the high watermark. I think the personal angle's been overdone. There's no doubt, because now people are actually wanting, because of this, people are actually wanting, if you boil it down, a really uninventive Bond film. Because they've overdone all these ticks, people want him to go and see M.
They fucked it up as well. I mean, like, things that we wouldn't mind, like another rerun of Majesty's when it's done correct, but
well, yeah, that's true.
But the thing is,
but everyone's like, why can't he just? Because everyone's sick of that MI6 team as well being in it so much. So like not everyone, because nothing is ever everyone. But I've seen a lot of weight of opinion now where you have like, can't he just go and see M and M's just in that one scene for like a minute and a half? Can't he go and see Q and pick up some gadgets and that's it? We only see Moneypenny for a bit of byplay before he goes in to see M. We don't want it to be personal, and we don't want him to have some fucking time-bound history with the villain. What they're actually saying there is, can you give me a really indistinctive Bond film, please? But in some respects, the Bond producers have brought this on themselves by overdoing it.
Yeah, I mean, he had Casino Royale did the personal thing really well. Great. They kind of semi-carried it on with Quantum. But, alright, that's... I don't have a problem with that so much, because that's just kind of like the hangover from it. And with the other two, they just felt so flimsy. Like, in terms of, like, it just felt like, yeah, it's just, it's Bond, you love it, don't you? There you are. Now it's just like, if you're going to do a personal thing, do it properly. Don't just sort of like throw in like a very sort of weak, flimsy sort of excuse for.
I think they just do it because they equate.
Issue. Yeah.
I think they just equate it with stakes. We've got to make this matter to Bond. I think that's what it is, because the character work in films, by and large, has improved. Certainly in more action-based cinema in the last few decades. So you can't just have, in their mind, I think you can't just have him go and do it because it's his fucking job. Whereas I would welcome him go and do it because it's his job, so that every fifth film, when it is personal, that fucking matters. Because it isn't normally personal.
The thing is, though, Dave, it can be a personal story, but you could introduce, like, say, the female character, i.e. love interest, whatever, and be personal to them, and Bond's, like, the thing that comes into that story, and becomes, like, the solution, or like, essentially... the audience, the view of the audience, and that'll be fine, because it'll be like, right, well, that's not specific to Bond. That's their own character, and then that character will be memorable, associated with that film, and then we'll be happy. I
think the bottom line is there's nowhere near enough inventiveness there, and it just speaks again to. It's not to take another free kick at Eon, even if Eon were doing a really good job, which I'm not saying they are, but. There comes a point where you need fresh voices. Kevin Feige's doing a really great job at Marvel, but I'm not sure he should be where he is in 15 years' time or 20 years' time, because there'll come a point where it's like, okay, well, Kevin Feige's given everything he possibly has to this series now. Time for, like, a fresh voice. And I think that's just where we are with Eon now. So they keep rinsing and repeating on this personal angle. What do you think, Becca?
No, I sort of largely agree, really. I think they kind of need to drop it now. I'd be very surprised if I did see Kevin Feige in the same role that he is now within the Marvel.
I mean, it's just an example
of
picked out of the air, but everything's got its time, is all I'm saying.
Well, exactly. I would kind of expect them maybe sort of 5-10 years to kind of to move on and allow somebody else to take the place. Definitely.
There just comes a point where you've said everything you can say.
Exactly. I'm saying this about the person. Like, every single film now has to be about that. I mean, that's what kind of really. I love Skyfall. It's one of the better Bond films, but at the same time, it kind of annoyed me because it's all got to be about him. Which is fine, but I would love, as a Bond fan, I would love to see just an old-fashioned, there's a
mission.
Make a villain, which is like a villain who wants, to cause havoc, and Bond just goes after him. There's no personal connection there at all.
Yeah,
just a mission, exactly. Any old mission.
Yeah.
Bond, there's this villain causing havoc around the world.
But I think they think that's not worthy enough.
You can strike like emotional, like Bond might find things that relate to the mission that Eve might find personal. Like,
exactly.
Like some moments might remind me of Vesper, for example, etc.
That's what. Yeah, that's basically the thread running.
It doesn't hang around it though. It's not like the main crux of it.
No, that's been done to death.
It's not that they can't do these things, but I just think that there are positives with going with like award-winning directors and stuff. I'm not sure I want to go back to like Roger Spottiswoode and people like that. I'm not. Whether you like or dislike Mendes' efforts, the ambition to go after a Sam Mendes to do a Bond film, I think, is perfectly laudable. But I think the problem is then it all has to have these weighty themes and stakes, or it needs to perceive it does. And if you've got to have it matter to Bond, they can't see beyond it being personal to Bond. I honestly think they're almost too scared to put out a film where he just goes and does a mission. And I think that's only exacerbated when you leave 4-year gaps. Because the next one you do's got to be really important.
Yeah.
I just think it's being horribly mismanaged at the moment. And the irony is, if you freeze frame now, they're the most successful they've ever been certainly since the 60s. The last 2 films are the highest grossing ever. And the first one of those 2 is adjusted the highest grossing as well. So, in some respects, people would say, well, they're mismanaged. How? It is at, pardon the pun, an all-time high.
But it's a missed opportunity.
But where's it going? That's the problem. They're not building the next generation of Bond fans. Go on a Bond forum. It's a bunch of moaning middle-aged men. Exactly. And I'm one of them frequently, by the way. So I'm not knocking it. But the fact is, I've said this before, it's like Formula One. If you don't bring like new people in, we die off and the series dies with us. Hopefully we got a few decades left yet, but you know what I mean? You've got to constantly sort of sell it to the next generation as well. And of course, as you get middle-aged and stuck in your way, people only want what they know. And yeah, it's just time to move on. It's time to
really designing for the new generation, so
that's the worry. I mean, 4-year gaps. Kids, kids will see a Bond.
Do what they've done with Thunderbirds and have a CGI Bond.
Well, you see a Bond film when you're 13 or something, and by the time the next one comes out, you're damn near an adult. Mm. It's too long. But I mean, the best they'll ever do is every other year. That's the best they'll ever do, and I think that's becoming a forlorn hope now.
Yeah, I don't see them. Well, if Ian is still doing it, unless it's been taken on by a different studio, I don't think we'll ever see the pattern of every other year again, or every 2 years. That would be every 4 or 5 years.
Do you know, in an ideal world, they'd actually sell Eon rather than sell Bond from Eon. They'll sell Eon to a subsidiary, purely because I would never not want to see Albert R. Broccoli's Eon Productions Presents.
Oh God, no.
I want to see that at the start of films, and of course, it still has to be Eon to do that.
I would still see
unless
the names are attached to it.
Unless you can still word it slightly differently and have Albert R. Broccoli's 007 series or whatever. I don't know. There may be ways around it. And it's not that they must never be involved again. I hate talking like this. I sound like I enjoy it. I think they're great. I think they've been so good. I mean, the pressure on Barbara Broccoli when she took the series over from her dad. I know a lot of that was on Michael G. Wilson, but she's got
they've done immensely well, done so well.
But I just think all things must pass, and arguably they probably should have quit after fucking Quantum.
No, it's difficult because it is very much like a family business, isn't it? So
Yeah, but the product belongs to the world. And
Time for Greg to take the reins.
What's Greg ever done?
Well, no, it's just because he's the next generation movie.
But
so
that's the
obviously,
point. What's Greg ever
he's
done?
sort of produced them.
It's
Some of the films.
It's not Monarchy. You know.
Just a suggestion, really. We'll keep them on as like executive.
To be honest,
producers.
he might be great. I don't know. Maybe if he took it on, it would all ramp up and he'd be terrific. And he's been around the series. And
he might be listening to the podcast. Absolutely agree with you, Dave. He might be like
unknown quantity.
He might be terrific, and it might be out of respect to his dad that he's not speaking up. My worry is we don't know what he can do. He's part of the current Eon regime that aren't delivering. And the last time I remember seeing his name on something, actually you do see his name, Inspector, but the thing where I first noticed, that must be Michael G. Wilson's son, was on the 007 Legends game, which was awful.
Mm.
How much he had to do with it. I mean, I'm not ridiculing it, Becca, because you might hand it to Greg and it's a complete rebirth of the series. But at this stage, I'd like the surer bet of handing it off to someone who we
know exactly.
Who we know can do it.
Not saying he's an unknown quantity, but rather than somebody who's assured, who knows what they're doing.
Maybe there's a transitional arrangement where he works with like Barbara for a couple.
Don't know.
Barbara steps out, someone steps in. Greg.
Well, you don't know. There might be some, work going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Yeah, where they are preparing to hand it over. Maybe that's why it's taking so long. I don't know. It's an infinite monkey cave.
They were running late anyway.
And obviously, impending parenthood.
The two of the better Bonds. One of them got 2 films, and then the series went into limbo, and he wasn't appreciated in his time because he was too close to Roger Moore. That's all it was. I didn't appreciate him in his time. And then you got Daniel Craig, who's genuinely come in with, I think, a fresh take on the character. And they've wasted all these years, and they could have. I don't know that we would have ever ended up with more than 5 films from him. That's not a bad return, but the films all feel disjointed from each other. As well, Quantum feels like it's following on from Casino, obviously, but in the next film, and I still stand by it's not about his age, but he's a broken down, man. I was about to say older man, but it's not about his age. And then Spectre doesn't really feel anything like Skyfall, and now we're going to get another director in, and that's going to feel very different because it's 4 years after Spectre, and I just think it just feels like this very weird disjointed era. None of it feels like Casino Royale. So in some respects, we haven't really got what we thought we were going to get.
A little bit different. But we'll see what happens in the coming years.
But hey, Greg might be the answer. And I remember you mentioned.
Probably won't be, I don't know.
I mean, you mentioned it in a podcast a long time ago. I mean, like a couple of years ago, and I was totally like, "Well, what the fuck's he ever done?" And I just thought that's probably a bit harsh. He has.
Some years down the line, we still don't know.
He might be,
untapped talent. You never know. That's the thing.
Well, this is it. It could be.
And if they hand it off to him, I do believe that that's because they believe he can do it. And if he has been involved with video games, albeit a shit one, he might think, okay, we can do something with this as an idea. But the other thing, of course, is I think of him as a younger man, but Michael G. Wilson's nearly 80, so how old is Greg? If another man's going to take it over, but he's 52 and only knows what his dad taught him, that's not going to reinvigorate anything. So I don't know.
Age is putting them above, but no, definitely. I think it's a delicate balance there, isn't it? You either pass it off to somebody who does know what they're doing, or
and I don't think
these things do take time.
And I don't think I can do any better. I mean, we joked earlier about writing a script and all the rest of it. I think there are scripts out there that I could rewrite. In that, it's very easy to see a film and go, I think that's wrong with it. I think that's wrong with it. I think that's wrong with it. And with some
hindsight is a wonderful thing.
And with some of those things, you could go.
We are very much armchair critics.
Logically, wouldn't you do that? Well, that's what we're here to do. There's nothing wrong with that. But I couldn't run the Bond series. I just recognize. I really couldn't. I don't think. I'm not an armchair expert who thinks he can do better. All I'm saying is I recognise that I don't think it's being managed correctly now. Not for the world we're in. That's all. Shouldn't be 4 years between the Bond films ever. The only time it was ever kind of acceptable was when it was stuck in the courts and stuff.
Well, yeah, because you can't really do much beyond that, can you? That's just annoying.
But when they say, "Oh, we can't get a distribution deal done," I just think, well, I'm not privy to the details, so I can't say, "Of course you can." But something about that just doesn't sound right. Or,
Yeah, because like, fuck, you'd be able to get someone interested.
everyone would be interested, unless you're offering a poor deal. And I did hear rumours that Sony were on quite a tight deal in terms of what you would expect to make out of these things. But again, we don't know the truth of it. There's lots we don't know. Maybe the people at Eon want to do it the right way, and circumstances are stopping them. We just don't know. We can only go by what we see, and all I've seen is that they took it over in '95, and I think currently their hit rate's kind of 50-50-ish. Because I'll give them GoldenEye. I'll say that's pretty good. Casino Royale's great. I'll give them Skyfall. But there's been 7 films. So they're a little bit under 50-50. But okay, that's fair enough. They've cast a good Bond this time. Quite happy with him. But I just think it just disappears for years. Bond just disappears for years.
Yeah, you'll have someone who saw Spectre going into the first year of grammar school or high school.
Or whatever.
Yeah. And then by the time the new one coming out, they'll be doing the GCSEs.
Yeah. I mean, I gave a similar example earlier. You're 13 and then you're 17 and you're not even remotely. Now, it's always going to be a couple of years. But even as a kid, they didn't feel that far apart. Even as a kid. I really noticed it when it did. I really noticed it after The Living Daylights, really, because License to Kill came out and I couldn't see it because I was 15. And the premiere was on telly and stuff like that, so I was really like, I think actually I wasn't that in love with Dalton back then, so I don't think I was devastated, but I was like, that's a shame. I would want to see it. But it felt like forever until GoldenEye. And you think, well, what if there is a delay now? They're starting to say, well, it's looking tight for next year. And I just think I'm at the point now where on principle, I think I'd take a pile of shit next year after something a bit better the following year. Because I don't want them to take 5 years, do a good film and think, oh, that's the way to do it. Take plenty of time.
It is easier because like I get a little bit frustrated by it because if I get a shit Bond film or a disappointing Bond film,
because not many of them are really shit, are they?
Yeah. It's like something that's a bit alright or just a bit average. You know, I'd be like, well, you know, if I know
Tomorrow Never Dies.
If I know there's another one in 2 years' time, I'd be like, oh,
that was okay, nothing special.
Yeah, alright, next. You know, but if I know, like, is this it going to be for 5 years or what?
I do miss that about the Brosnan era, because at the time, until Die Another Day, I didn't hate any of the films at all. GoldenEye was alright, Tomorrow Never Dies was alright, and, like, World Is Not Enough was actually, I really liked it at the time, but on balance, it's alright. And it was never that long, and, of course, there's always a steady stream of press in the year the film is released, and they start filming in, like, normally December or January. Quite often it was January with Brosnan. So you get a film out, like, not that far from Christmas. By the time you see it a couple of times, you're probably still seeing it in, like, December or whatever. Comes out on home release in, like, April or something like that. Now I'm on about. And by the following January, you're getting all, like, the build-up to the next one. So it's only ever really away for a few months on a 2-year cycle. On a 3-year cycle, it feels worse. And on a 4-year cycle, it's like it's never there. That's all. So that's the one thing that makes me nostalgic for the Brosnan era. I'll give you that. And in some respects, it's a tough balancing act. Would I want Skyfall Casino Royale standard with 3 or 4 year gaps, or Brosnan film standards with 2? That's a difficult one.
I think you probably would go for the 3. The
3
standard. But again, that's down to like if you trust them to be that consistent.
Yeah. I think the problem is 3 years doesn't guarantee it.
Yeah.
But
then for me, there's like, well, there's no need for you to do it take that long anyway, because if you know, you should be working and find out these scripts like while the one's in production. You know what I mean? You should be working ahead of this. You've got no excuse. Other studios do it. You know, I would have that on my mind if I was head of Eon. I would always be thinking about where we're going to next, because I can always, if I hire the right people, I can trust them to make the film that needs to be there. A good Bond film. I can trust them to make Casino, because I've already done the graft ahead of time.
Yeah.
I've already laid out foundations, hired the right people. Everything seems to be going tickety-boo. I'm not hearing any problems tickety-boo. Everything seems to be going well and set. No issues. Great. Okay. Let's have a look at that script. Right. Okay. I think we should go here.
There's nothing to stop you having different.
How about that actor for the villain? Blah blah.
Yeah. You're saying have different teams overlapping somewhat.
Well, it's just being prepared and just being just having a good work ethic.
I mean, they are a smallish company. We don't know what kind of capital they've got behind them. I'm willing to hear arguments against all these. Yeah, but I think the problem is they keep using the same fucking writers all the time, and it's like, well, fine if you want them to write that, but can't somebody else be sketching out the next one? Mm. But they They always seem to want to see how the previous one did first. They always want to see what the end result looks like so they can try to top it, which is always a mistake, trying to top the last film. And they always seem to want to see what's going on in the world. And I think, arguably, all three of those are a bad idea. But there you go. We better sign off. This is running long.
Yeah.
And the film finished ages ago.
Yeah. I think, ultimately, in the day, a good story sells, no matter what. So you can try and rethink it all you want, but at the end of the day, if it's a good story, you have a good film, and then that's what people go to, that and name recognition, and you already have name recognition, so just tell a good story. You can find me at Cinetronics on Twitter, which I'm barely on Twitter anyway, but that's where I am, and you can find.
But you can see his back catalogue of tweets.
Yes. And you can find this podcast as well on cinetronics.co.uk, where you can find our old Bond podcasts that aren't on iTunes anymore because iTunes is fucking awkward.
Because damn you, iTunes!
Yeah.
You can find me at the Pasty Kid 1976 on Twitter.
And you can find this podcast on Twitter at Expect Us to Talk. You can drop us an email at expectustalk@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube if you type in "Do you expect us to talk" in the search bar. And you can find the rest of our episodes, maybe not Bond, but the other ones we've done on iTunes. Yes, and also we're on Stitcher too. Just type in "Do you expect us to talk" and we shall appear.
And probably other podcatchers we're not even aware of, because I have seen us on other platforms that we haven't physically put ourselves on. So
like Podbean, things like that.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So yeah, but I think it's time we put down the gun and just grab the cannoli. Which means, Becca,
Do you expect to talk will return with a brand new retrospective review series of The Godfather?